Chapter 1352. All they saw was a tall and slender figure leaning against the tree. His slender legs and silhouette were as dazzling as the stars in the dark. It was enough to make all the girls present scream until they lost themselves. Fortunately, it was nighttime. Other than the students from different schools, the rest of the students had either returned to their tents or gathered together to play cards. No one looked in that direction. When Yun Jian turned her head to look, her eyes met with a pair of deep, shining eyes in the dark. When she came back to her senses, she saw that the person leaning against the tree was already walking over. That pair of slender legs seemed to have been carefully carved by God. Very quickly, it attracted the attention of the students who hadn't noticed him before. "Damn!" One of the boys who was playing poker screamed. He was so scared that he dropped the poker cards in his hand into the bonfire that was lit by the firewood. Ce suddenly appeared like a ghost in the dark. The crowd sitting around him was shocked. When they came back to their senses, they saw that Ce was already walking toward Yun Jian. "Who's this guy? He suddenly appeared like a ghost. I was scared to death," someone said loudly. "But this man is so handsome." Another girl held her face in her hands and shouted out loud in a rather infatuated manner. Ce ignored everything around him. After he walked over, he grabbed Yun Jian's hand and pulled Yun Jian up from the ground. Then he walked toward the small forest. Hey, who are you? How can you take away a student from our school without permission?" An instructor who was patrolling saw Ce suddenly pull Yun Jian toward the small forest. He quickly chased after him to stop him. The moment he saw Ce, Lin Shuya, who was sitting not far away with Wen Peeling and Han Ming, was stunned. All the students thought that Yun Jian was in a relationship at a young age. After all, this guy who suddenly appeared walked over and pulled Yun Jian away in front of the instructor. If this wasn't love, then what was? And they actually dared to do it so openly. After hearing the instructor's question, Ce narrowed his eyes. At the same time, he didn't let go. Instead, he pulled Yun Jian into his arms. "Instructor, they're openly dating each other. Let's not talk about the fact that we're students. I don't think even in the military you can hug so openly, right? I suggest that Yun Jian be punished." Seeing such a tall and handsome man hugging Yun Jian, Lin Shuya was very unconvinced. The jealousy in her heart also sprouted. Lin Shuya just happened to catch this scene. She started egging Yun Jian on, as if she was afraid that Yun Jian wouldn't be punished. "Dating?" Ce broke into a smile, his handsome face mesmerizing. Lin Shuya couldn't help but stare. "This time, I agree with Shuya's point of view. It's best not to fall in love early in school, especially in our military school. Moreover, it's still the military training period now." Wen Peeling stood up rather gently and said a sentence of justice. "Ahem, even if your team monarch/ing God, I can't cover for you, so?" The instructor was about to punish Yun Jian. Just then Ce suddenly half-hugged Yun Jian. He took out a thin book from his trouser pocket and threw it to the instructor. He hugged Yun Jian's slender waist again and suddenly curled his lips to declare his sovereignty. "Nominally, she's already my wife. This is Country R's marriage certificate. We're legal." The instructor grabbed the book and glanced at it. Then his face stiffened. This is really Country R's marriage certificate? I have a relative who was married to a Country R citizen. It's this kind of book." After hearing the instructor's words, Lin Shuya's face darkened to the extreme. Everyone around them was stunned. Chapter 1353. Telling everyone in front of everyone that Yun Jian was already his woman. Was legal. Ce felt great about it. If Adam or Shuang were here, they would probably mock him again. "So you're this kind of young master." However, Adam and Shuang did not know that they were here. Adam was in Yulong mainland while Shuang was left behind by Ce and an Han group to take over his job. "Have you seen enough?" Ce asked when he saw the instructor still looking at his and Xiao Jian's marriage certificate. The instructor was stunned by Ce's words before he tossed the book back to Ce. Country R's marriage certificate was not called a marriage certificate but a marriage certificate. There were many types of marriage certificates in Country R, but they were mostly the same. It was unlike Country Z's marriage certificate, which was a small red book. In Country R, the woman could get married as long as she was 16 years old. Ce caught the book the instructor tossed back without even looking at it and put it back in his pocket. His deep gaze was fixed on Yun Jian, not even willing to look away. Before he pulled Yun Jian to the forest, Ce left a line that made one's imagination run wild. "Since we're on board, we have to buy tickets." When Ce said that, Yun Jian pinched the fleshy part of his waist that was devoid of excess fat. In the eyes of the others, Yun Jian's action was a public display of affection. "Alright, it was legal." Oh my god, so Yun Jian already has such a handsome boyfriend? No, it's her husband. It's so sweet, I'm so envious. Yun Jian's husband caught the marriage certificate without even looking at it just now. He must be quite skilled. They're a perfect match. They're so compatible. This was already enviable enough, but when Lin Wan exclaimed about it, the people around them could not help it even if they did not want to listen. Especially those girls, one or two of them were so envious that they were about to go crazy. Lin Shuya was so envious that her fingertips had already dug into her palms. Shuya, come here for a moment. At this moment, one of Lin Shuya's followers suddenly leaned his head close to Lin Shuya's ear and said something. Lin Shuya's little follower was also a student in Yun Jian's class. His name was Xiang Qishi. Xiang Qishi was so envious that she wanted to die, but she didn't dare to do it herself, so she went to Lin Shuya and whispered a lot. In the end, Lin Shuya narrowed her eyes and smiled. Then she nodded and said softly that only Xiang Qishi and herself could hear, "Humph, what do you mean he's Yun Jian's man? Which man doesn't like the new and hate the old?" In the small forest, Ce hugged Yun Jian for a long time before releasing her. Then he said, "I'm going back to an Hun organization soon. This time I won't be able to leave for a long time. If you miss me, come and find me." It wasn't a plea but a determined tone. "Who would miss you?" Yun Jian gave Ce a little push. Just as she was about to turn and leave, Ce grabbed her wrist and pressed her against the tree to kiss her. Xiao Jian wears the ring? After the kiss, he realized that Yun Jian was not wearing the ring he brought back from Yulong mainland. Accessories were not allowed during military training, so Yun Jian had kept it. "It's in my bag," Yun Jian answered with a press of lips. Ce grunted before his lips curled into a smirk. "If you don't wear it next time, I'll eat you." Chapter 1354. Ce stole a few more mouthfuls of tofu when Yun Jian was not paying attention. In the end, even when Yun Jian reached out to slap his hand to stop him, it was useless. If they were not in the forest but on a huge bed, Ce would probably not have been able to hold himself back. They had already gotten the marriage certificate, but the title was not confirmed yet. Just thinking about it made him feel indignant. Yun Jian and the rest have been gone for so long. I heard from the instructor that the forest here is not particularly safe. When we first came here, there was even a wild boar attack. Do you think they're in danger? Lin Wan sat on the grass and chatted with Muing for a long time. In fact, it was Lin Wan talking to herself. Muing was in charge of listening and occasionally replied to Lin Wan. Lin Wan suddenly thought of the danger as she spoke. She quickly sat up straight and turned to Muing. Thinking about it, there were quite a lot of wild beasts in the forest. No one could guarantee that there would not be a ferocious beast running out of the forest. Aya, will something happen to them? Muing, shall we get the instructor to look for them? Lin Wan stood up from the ground in fright. Muing tugged Lin Wan's clothes and pulled Lin Wan back to the ground. She said calmly, "Don't worry. If this lousy forest can stump her, the sky will fall." Lin Wan heard Mu Ying's words and heaved a sigh of relief. "Is that so? Then I'm not worried. Unless the sky falls, nothing will stump her. Even if Yun Jian is Team Monarch/God, she can't be omnipotent, right? She's not a god. There are some things that are better not said so easily." Lin Shuya was sitting not far away. After hearing Mu Ying's words, she sneered. Lin Shuya still did not like Yun Jian after knowing that she was Team Monarch/God. However, he didn't dare to say it as openly as before. Lin Shuya's words didn't get any response from Mu Ying and Lin Wan. After sitting there for a while, Lin Wan suddenly saw two figures coming out of the woods. The moment she saw Yun Jian, Lin Wan heaved a sigh of relief. Then she tugged at the corner of Mu Ying's clothes. "Look, Yun Jian is back safely." "Okay." Mu Ying nodded. Just as he looked up, he saw two silhouettes walking toward Yun Jian. Yun Jian had just walked out of the forest with Ce when she sensed a girl pouncing on her. Needless to say, this girl was Lin Shuya's little follower, Xiang Qishi. Xiang Qishi walked over and reached out to grab Yun Jian's wrist, acting like she was very close to Yun Jian. She wanted to pull Yun Jian aside while saying, "Yun Jian, you must be /God. I admire you so much. My friends also admire you very much. Can you come over and say hello to my friends?" Xiang Qishi wanted to pull Yun Jian away, but before she could reach out, Yun Jian dodged Xiang Qishi's hand and rejected coldly. "No." Xiang Qishi was stunned. She obviously didn't expect Yun Jian to reject her so decisively. On the other hand, Lin Shuya wanted to hit on Ce. Although she said something serious, she wanted to lean on Ce. "Handsome, are you and Yun Jian really married? How did you guys get married? Can you?" As Lin Shuya spoke, she even thought about it. Her breasts were well developed. She planned to rub her breasts against Siyi's hand. As long as it was a man, he wouldn't be able to stand it. But imagination was beautiful. Lin Shuya didn't even get close to Siyi. She couldn't even touch the corner of Siyi's clothes. Siyi didn't even look at her. He kicked Lin Shuya coolly and frowned slightly. He spat out a word of disgust between his thin lips. Get lost. This was nothing. What scared Lin Shuya even more was that Siyi actually took out a silver pistol from his waist and pointed it at her. Stay away from me. Otherwise this will be your end. After Siyi finished speaking, everyone was shocked that he actually took out a pistol. At the same time, he suddenly fired a shot at a spot on the lawn not far from Lin Shuya's side. A frog that was passing by was killed by this shot, and blood splattered everywhere. The blood splattered directly onto Lin Shuya's face and body, causing Lin Shuya to tremble on the spot and scream incessantly due to this unforeseen event. Chapter 1355. Lin Shuya was suddenly kicked by Ce and splashed by the frog's blood. She was so scared that she started twitching. If Lin Shuya was envious of Yun Jian and Ce being together, then she and all the girls present were terrified of Ce. He even used a gun? Lin Shuya only wanted to play a little trick, but not only did he send her flying with a kick, he even wanted to kill her. This man was very handsome, but how could he be so cold? At this moment, the instructor who was patrolling saw it and rushed over to stop Ce, afraid that Ce would really kill someone in front of everyone. Comrade, don't you know that it's illegal to carry a gun? Hurry up and hand it over. Although the instructor didn't know who Ce was, he could only do things according to common sense. As for Lin Shuya and Xiang Qishi, they were so scared that they hugged each other. Not to mention the two of them, the surrounding boys were all trembling in fear. Ce's eyes moved. At this moment, he hugged Yun Jian and didn't even look at the instructor. He reached into his trouser pocket and took out a leather certificate other than the marriage certificate and threw it to the instructor. Although it was night time, the surrounding students could clearly see the three big words written on the leather cover of the certificate. Gun license. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly. He actually managed to get a gun license from Z country? In the past, if Ce came to country Z, he never cared about these things. He could have committed a crime and left country Z. With his status, even if the police pursued him, there would be no news. But he didn't. In country Z, Ce didn't kill anyone for her. Now he even deliberately got a gun certificate. After all, Yun Jian still had to live in country Z. Qin Yuru, Yuni, and the others were all in country Z. Something really happened, they couldn't live there anymore. One could imagine how much Ce had changed for her. He was the leader of the Inhun organization, but he endured to this extent for her. If they weren't in country Z, Lin Shuya would definitely end up like that frog. The moment the instructor received the gun certificate, his eyes were wide open. The instructor's hands trembled. He looked up at Ce and flipped through the gun certificate in his hand. This is really a gun license, you? The instructor's words made all the students around him feel shocked and terrified. Although the surrounding people had seen the three big words gun license, just now, when they received the instructor's verification, the oral shock was still not small. In other words, it was legal for Ce to carry a gun? Lin Shuya and Xiang Qishi dared not move, looking like they were really afraid that Ce would shoot them. In front of everyone's eyes, in front of everyone, he hugged Yun Jian in front of everyone's eyes. At the same time, in a low voice, his voice in front of everyone, I'm leaving. If anyone bullies you, just kill them. If anything happens, I'll take care of it for you. As soon as Ce finished speaking, Yun Jian softly replied, An ordinary person would definitely not be able to produce a gun certificate. In this case, Ce was definitely not an ordinary person. At this moment, even the instructor was a little stunned. Until Ce took the gun certificate from the instructor and left, everyone present was still in a state of shock. Yun Jian, you're wearing a ring on your finger? It's so beautiful. At this moment, Lin Wan suddenly ran in front of Yun Jian and lifted Yun Jian's ring finger to take a look. Then she shouted with joy. This ring was on her finger, and Ce had deliberately chosen it. Yun Jian retracted her gaze from Ce's direction and smiled slightly. Okay, go back to your tents and sleep. It's fine. Especially the students who are participating in the 7-day outdoor survival activity tomorrow. Go and rest. The instructor urged at this moment. Then all the students returned to their tents. Chapter 1356. The next day the sun was still shining brightly. It was summer and the sun rose earlier in the south. At around 4:20 in the morning, the first rays of the morning sun had already appeared in the east. In less than 20 minutes, the sky would be completely bright. Yunjin woke up at 4:30. The air was the freshest at this time. Taking a deep breath would give one a refreshing feeling that penetrated one's heart. Yunjin pulled open the tent and came out. She gently stretched. At this time, the students in the surrounding tents were still sleeping. 6:30 was the time to wake up. At 7 o'clock, the students who planned to participate in this outdoor survival activity would be sent to the activity location by the school bus. Student Yunjian, you're up so early? Instructor Zhou came from the side at this time. He glanced at Yunjian, then smiled and said, "It's not early." Yunjian pursed her lips and smiled. Then she put on her little white shoes, stood up and walked towards the woods. "What are you going to do, student Yunjian?" Instructor Zhou was stunned when he saw this. "Morning exercise," Yunjian said as she stretched, then jogged towards the woods. Instructor Zhou, who was standing in the same spot, was stunned. Then he smiled and stood in the same spot. He shook his head and praised, "What a good seedling." When Yunjian came back from her morning run, it was already 5:30. The students were still not awake, except for a few instructors who were already awake and sitting on the lawn. When he saw Yunjian, Instructor Zhou waved at her. "Hey Yunjian, you're back? The other students will wake up in an hour. Come over and let's talk." When Yunjian saw this, she gently wiped the sweat on her forehead and walked towards the instructors. Then she sat down on the lawn and looked at the instructors sideways. The students who don't need to participate in today's outdoor survival activity ended their military training early. So last night, we asked the students to hand in small slips of paper asking if they wanted to participate in today's outdoor survival activity. There are a total of 15 classes in the entire grade, and there isn't even a single student in one class. How can we compete with the students from the Wulin Military Academy in the Yin province? One of the instructors gritted his teeth and said as he slapped a large piece of paper on the ground. Yunjian raised her eyebrows slightly and asked, "In this outdoor survival activity, our school is competing with the students from other military academies from other provinces?" Instructor Zhou then replied to Yunjian, "Yes. It's a competition to see which school has more students passing this activity. I'll talk about this later." Yunjian pursed her lips and did not ask any more. Muing woke up at 6 o'clock. At 6:30, all the students got up. The students who did not participate in the outdoor survival activity in the morning, and went home to rest after their military training. As for the students who continued to participate in the outdoor survival activity, only of the year of the Wulin, the year of the Wold of the Wolf *************, in other words, 30 of the students in the wilderness survival of the year. After sending the 30 students to the beach near Min City, Instructor Zhou mentioned that the students from Min City Military Academy would be competing with the students from Wulin Military Academy from Sesame City in the Yin province. The location of the competition was set to be an uninhabited island. The uninhabited island covered a large area, and there were some dangerous animals on it. Before entering the uninhabited island, Instructor Zhou would give each student a panic button. Once the button was pressed, the military personnel would know that the student had given up on the competition. Then they would immediately send a helicopter to take the student away. The competition could be stopped midway. After Yunjian and the others got out of the car, they met up with the freshmen from Wulin Military Academy before they went to the uninhabited island. When they saw that Yunjian and the others from Min City Military Academy were thin and weak, some of the students from Wulin Military Academy began to put on airs. Chapter 1357. Many of the playful boys from Min City Military School gave up and didn't participate in this outdoor survival event. Instead, a group of girls held up the sky. Lin Shuya, Xiang Qishi and Wen Piling all came. Yunjian and Muing didn't need to be mentioned. On the night of choosing whether or not to participate in this outdoor survival event, Lin Wan also wrote, "Participate," on a small piece of paper. So Lin Wan also came. In addition, a few girls from other classes were also there. Of course, there were still more boys. Lung Hanja and Han Ming also participated. As for the boys from other classes, there were people who signed up one after another. Girls didn't make up the majority. After all, there were only a few girls in the military school. But compared to Wulin Military School was full of strong boys. Every one of them looked very strong. As for the girls, only one or two came from Wulin Military School. Hearing the words of the boy from Wulin Military School, all the students from Min City Military School were furious. "Just you wait, we'll win for sure." One of the boys from Yunjian School shouted back at the guy just now, indignant. For a moment the atmosphere on both sides was a little tense. Alright, let's not hurt each other. After all, friendship comes first, competition comes second. Wen Peeling stood up and said in a very friendly manner. No matter how noisy the scene was, no matter how the crowd argued, Wen Peeling always showed a warm smile. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly. Then, under the guidance of the instructors from Wulin Military School and Instructor Zhou, everyone boarded the cruise ship to the uninhabited island. Yun Jian sat on the large cruise ship and closed her eyes to rest. After a while, suddenly loud quarreling sounds came from the side. The noise was so loud that Yun Jian opened her eyes. Immediately, she heard unpleasant shouting. It was two girls arguing. You stepped on my foot just now. What's wrong? I'm just curious. Why don't you girls from Wulin Military School even know how to apologize? Do you want me to teach you? Bastard. This voice came from Lin Shuya. Yun Jian could tell right away. Let me tell you, if it weren't for military training, I would have asked someone to beat you to death right away. Believe it or not. The voice came from one of the girls from Wulin Military Academy. Wei, stop arguing. Let's not argue with the students from Min City's Military Academy. Another girl from Wulin Military Academy quickly pulled the girl who was arguing with Lin Shuya away. The girl who quarreled with Lin Shuya was called Su Wei. Su Wei was forcefully dragged away by her friend, so she didn't continue quarreling with Lin Shuya. But before she left, Su Wei shouted at Lin Shuya, "Just you wait. If I don't kill you, my name isn't Su Wei." Su Wei's words made Wen Peeling's eyelids move. She hurried over and pulled Lin Shuya away. Who is this? Lin Shuya screamed again. Yun Jian lowered her eyes. Just as she was about to close her eyes again, she saw that Instructor Zhou had already started distributing the emergency SOS to each student. There was a button on the emergency SOS. Pressing the button would set the location. As long as a student didn't want to continue participating in the competition, they could press the button, indicating that they admitted defeat and intended to withdraw from the competition midway. According to the location on the emergency SOS, the helicopter would fly there to pick up the students. When Instructor Zhou handed the emergency SOS to Yun Jian didn't take it. I don't need it. Every student has one. Take it. You can do whatever you want with it, Instructor Zhou said with a smile. When Yun Jian heard this, she took the emergency SOS and threw it directly into the sea outside the cruise ship without even looking at it. This throw meant that she had no way out. She didn't even have the right to withdraw from the competition midway. Seeing this, the group of boys from Wulin Military Academy began to whistle and lean over. Some of the boys even teased, "Yo, this girl is quite fierce, but it's not very wise, haha." Chapter 1358. Even if they're fools, it's not up to you to talk about our classmates. Trash Wulin Military School. Lin Shuya didn't know what was wrong with her at this time. She actually helped Yun Jian scold the boy. Lin Shuya helped Yun Jian purely because Wulin Military School and Min City's military school were now enemies. It was one thing to quarrel with one's own people, but it was another thing to quarrel with outsiders. What are you talking about, woman? Be careful that I don't beat you up. The boy from Wulin Military School heard Lin Shuya's words and stood up directly and clenched his fist at Lin Shuya. After all, boys were stronger than ordinary girls. Seeing this, Lin Shuya shrank back and was a little scared. Pa. Just as the boys from Wulin Military School saw Lin Shuya's cowardly look and laughed out loud, Yun Jian's hand, which was originally attached to the armrest of the seat, suddenly exerted force. Hearing this, the group of people around looked over, only to see Yun Jian's hand on the armrest of the seat. She exerted a little force and actually broke the plastic armrest of the seat. Although the armrest of the seat was made of plastic because of its large size, breaking it was definitely not something that could be done with ordinary strength. Yun Jian looked thin and weak. Her small body looked as if she hadn't eaten much and had no strength at all. But with a gentle twist of her hand, she actually broke the plastic armrest directly. What kind of strength was this? The group of boys from Wulin Military School were still laughing and mocking her just now. Now that they suddenly saw this scene, they were so scared that they stopped breathing. Damn it. This is not human. A boy from Wulin Military School was so scared that he directly roared out after seeing this scene. However, he saw Yun Jian throw the armrest of the seat to the ground. She propped one hand by her ear and said impatiently, "You guys are very noisy." After hearing Yun Jian's words and looking at Yun Jian's actions just now, the group of boys from Wulin Military School actually shut their mouths instantly and became terrified. Seeing this scene, the boys in Yun Jian's school laughed out loud. Damn, this is so satisfying. Yun Jian, you're amazing. We support you. Similar voices emerged one after another. But Yun Jian just turned sideways and closed her eyes to rest. When things quieted down, the group of boys from Wulin Military School shouted at Yun Jian, "It's not good for a girl to be so rude. Be careful that no one will want you when you grow up." I want it. Such a beautiful woman, I can't wait to see her." What was even worse was that someone actually shouted at Yun Jian, "Hey little sister, if we win this competition, will you be my girlfriend?" These words caused another uproar. No one from Min City Military Academy spoke up for Yun Jian either. Lin Wan originally wanted to scold them back for Yun Jian, but she was stopped by Mu Ying. When they arrived at the uninhabited island, the instructors reminded them again and again. In the end, they checked every student's military travel bag to make sure that they had enough food to survive for 7 days. Only then did they watch the group of students walk into the dense forest of the uninhabited island. Every student had brought enough food and necessities. After all, this group of students did not have any practical experience. It would be very dangerous to let them go in without bringing anything. Other than that, the instructors also prepared a military dagger for each student to defend themselves. When they just entered the forest of the uninhabited island, all the students from Wulin Military School and Min City Military Academy walked together. At first, the sun was shining brightly in the sky, so even when they walked into the forest, it did not feel eerie. As Lin Wan walked, she seemed to be affected by the environment. She turned her head to look at Yun Jian, then turned her head to look at Mu Ying and asked, "Mu Ying, how was it when you and Yun Jian were in the Amazon forest? Can you tell me about it?" As she spoke, Lin Wan blinked curiously. Chapter 1359. Damn, are you kidding me? 2 girls have been to the Amazon forest? Are you kidding me? Do you have passports? Can you go abroad? I don't believe you. A Wulin Military School boy who had been leading the clamor and looked like a ruffian shouted first. He then looked at Yun Jian and Mu Ying with a scrutinizing gaze. Everyone present could feel the look of disbelief on his face. That's right. If this was said by a man, I could still believe it. But if it's said by 2 skinny girls, I won't believe it even if you beat me to death. Standing next to the ruffian boy, another boy who was close to the ruffian boy also laughed in collusion with him. The former was called Wu Bukue, and the latter was called Ma Xiaoyao. Both of them were famous freshmen in Wulin Military School. Their strength was not bad, but their character was not good. Especially Wu Bukue. Due to his outstanding performance during the military training, he attracted the admiration of many girls. He even secretly took advantage of many girls. In Wu Bukue's own words, he wanted to F***ck all the beautiful girls. When he saw Yun Jian just now, he already felt that she was not bad. But boys, especially boys who were in puberty and had the strongest desire to win. Once they heard that a boy was better than them, they would want to compete. Not to mention that a girl was better than them. If a girl was better than them, of course they would not admit it. Unless this girl could convince him wholeheartedly. Originally, Lin Wan only wanted to ask Mu Ying, but she did not expect the boys from Wulin Military School to speak up. Therefore she stomped her feet angrily. Mu Ying completely ignored the boys. She pretended that she did not hear what the boys said. She directly said to Lin Wan, "That was a long time ago. Yun Jian and I stayed in the Amazon forest for half a year. When we first went in, we did not even have a dagger, let alone food. In the Amazon forest, which was full of beasts, I met a group of cheetahs as soon as I went in." Mu Ying suddenly turned to ask Yun Jian, "Yun Jian, what was the first beast you encountered after entering the Amazon?" At this time Mu Ying asked Yun Jian. She felt a sense of nostalgia when she recalled the dangerous past. It was a feeling of fear and nostalgia. "Cobras, about 100 of them." Yun Jian pursed her red lips. She looked at the ground and replied to Mu Ying. "Haha, cheetahs and cobras. What a joke." As soon as Mu Ying and Yun Jian finished talking, the boys from Wulin Military Academy, led by Wu Bukue and Ma Xiaoyao, began to laugh again. Just as the group of people took 2 more steps forward, Yun Jian suddenly raised her head and shouted, "Stop right there." Hearing Yun Jian's shout, everyone around was so scared that they stopped in their tracks. Yun Jian's voice was loud and clear, startling Wu Bukue before he came to his senses. "F***ck little beauty, are you crazy?" Wu Bukue shouted. "If we go any further, it will be a swamp. If we fall into a swamp, no one will survive," Yun Jian said coldly. "Ah, the swamp? Isn't the road ahead very normal? Are you kidding? Or are you trying to find a sense of presence? Is this all your Min City Military Academy is capable of?" This time the girl named Su Wei who quarreled with Lin Shuya just now mocked Yun Jian. Obviously, Su Wei was very unhappy that Yun Jian attracted all the boys from Wulin Military Academy. If you want to go, go ahead. Yun Jian did not even look at Su Wei. She squatted down slightly, picked up a large stone from the ground, and smashed the large stone on the ground in front of her. The flat ground that looked like a normal road suddenly sank, and then the large stone was quickly swallowed into the ground. Su Wei, who just wanted to find more words to mock Yun Jian, was shocked. The other students also hurriedly stopped, and each of them was so scared that their faces instantly turned pale. This place that looked completely normal was actually a swamp. Yun Jian was really right. And if it was not for Yun Jian, then all of them present would. Chapter 1360. Su Wei and Wu Bukui's faces immediately darkened. Especially Su Wei. Su Wei was the one who questioned Yun Jian the loudest just now. Especially when Yun Jian said to her, "If you want to leave, do as you please." Su Wei had already lifted her foot and was about to walk forward. She was still thinking that the ground looked flat. How could it be a swamp? Who was Yun Jian trying to fool? However, before Su Wei could lift her foot to walk forward, Yun Jian threw a huge stone forward. Then the seemingly ordinary ground swallowed the huge stone. It was a swamp. This was a swamp. Yun Jian was absolutely right. If Yun Jian had been a step slower to throw the rock into the swamp, she would have stepped on it and she would be dead meat. The faces of the people around changed drastically. A student from Wulin Military School even shouted, "How could this be? Didn't the instructor say that it wouldn't be dangerous? How could there be a swamp here? This is impossible." Everything is possible. This forest is not as simple as it looks. If you can't stand it, leave as soon as possible. Yun Jian glanced coldly at the student from Wulin Military School who was yelling. This glance made the student tremble all over. Then he shouted, "I don't want to continue. This is playing with our lives." After shouting, he pressed the button. He chose to withdraw from the competition. It was too dangerous here. He could lose his life at any time. In less than 10 minutes, a military helicopter flew here and took the student away. Several boys from Wulin Military School also automatically withdrew from the competition. No one from Yun Jian's school chose to withdraw. After the people who chose to leave left, Yun Jian turned to the crowd and said, "For those who don't like me or don't trust me, let's part ways here. I have no obligation to take you with me. Good luck." After that, Yun Jian waved to Muing and Lin Wan. Su Wei didn't dare to say anything else, but Yun Jian was obviously talking about them. Although the students from Wulin Military Academy all wanted to go with Yun Jian, none of them could bring themselves to do it. So Wu Bukui led them to the left. The students from Min City Military Academy stood rooted to the ground. "I want to be with Ying. This was Lung Hanja's wish. Let's go together. We can only win if we work together. Besides, it's quite dangerous here. I think Yun Jian knows a lot about survival in the wild, so I'll have to trouble her to lead the way. This is also for the honor of our school." As soon as Lung Hanja finished speaking, Wen Peeling immediately added, "You can follow me, but you are not allowed to question my judgment. Otherwise leave." This was Yun Jian's principle. She stood in front of everyone and spoke coldly with an expressionless face. "Do you really think you're—" Lin Shuya was a little unconvinced after hearing this. She muttered a few words, but Wen Peeling immediately covered her mouth. "That's enough. From now on, everyone will listen to Yun Jian. If anyone has any objections, they can leave by themselves if they have the ability." After all, Lung Hanja was the oldest in the group. As soon as he spoke, everyone was stunned. As expected, no one dared to say anything else. The group then walked in the opposite direction of the Wulin Military Academy students. After walking for about half an hour, they suddenly heard a cry for help coming from behind them. Just by listening, one could tell that it was the group of students from the Wulin military training who were running towards them as fast as they could. They were also shouting for help, which made Lung Hanja and the others frown. They're catching up. There are so many snakes. What do we do? I don't want to stay in this godforsaken place anymore. We'll die. Oh, F***Seeker run. Run. Did the students from Wulin Military Academy lead the danger here? Chapter 1361. Yun Jian's eyes flashed, but her expression didn't change. In comparison, Yun Jian's classmates all tensed up when they heard the Wulin Military Academy students' screams from afar. What's going on? What's going on? Han Ming's expression changed. He quickly turned to look at Lung Hanja and spat out this sentence in fear. Judging from the sound, they're being chased by snakes. Everyone run. Lung Hanja's expression was also very bad, but compared to the people around him, his reaction was the calmest. Snakes? Snakes? I'm afraid of snakes the most. Lin Shuya was so scared that she almost fell to the ground. Her face instantly turned pale and she wanted to be the first to run. It's a snake swarm. We can't run. Yun Jian squatted on the ground gently. She placed her hand on the ground and felt the movement from afar. Yun Jian, are you trying to get us killed? You already said that it's a snake swarm and you still won't let us run. Lin Shuya couldn't suppress her fear anymore. She was the first to run as if she had gone crazy. However, she heard Lung Hanja say, "Listen to Yun Jian. If anyone dares to run now, then don't stay with us for the next 7 days." Lung Hanja's words made Lin Shuya even more afraid. She didn't dare to run anymore. Since it's a snake swarm, then let's go up the tree. Xiang Qishi, who was with Lin Shuya, suddenly said. Hearing the footsteps of the Wulin Military Academy students getting closer and closer, the people around them were so scared that they were trembling all over. Thus, after hearing Xiang Qishi's words, the people around them immediately found their target tree. Even Lin Shuya, who usually didn't climb trees for the sake of her image, ran up the tree like a wisp of smoke. At this time, Yun Jian had already raised her hand from the ground and stood up straight. Snakes can climb trees too, Yun Jian said. This made the students who had already climbed up the tree suddenly think of this point. Right, snakes can climb trees too? What should they do? Were they really going to die here? No. They didn't want to die. At this moment, Yun Jian calmly said, if you have any flammable items like paper or books, take them out. Snakes are afraid of fire and smoke. Where there's fire, there's smoke. As long as there's fire, it won't dare to come over. Hearing Yun Jian's words, the boys immediately realized this. With that, the students tossed their books and papers into a pile in their military travel bags as fast as they could. Yun Jian then took out a lighter and flicked it on before tossing it into the fire together with the lighter. At this moment, he happened to see the group of Wulin Military Academy students chasing after a group of dozens of snakes, rushing over. When they reached the bonfire, all the students from the Wulin Military Academy jumped over. Meanwhile, the snakes that were crawling towards them suddenly realized something. They turned around abruptly as if they had met their natural enemy and ran away in the blink of an eye. The people around her maintained their fighting and fearful expressions at all times. Only Yun Jian stood behind the fire with her arms crossed, watching the group of snakes disappear into the distance. When the group of snakes was really far away, the students on the tree all climbed down. Su Wei, Wu Bukue, and the others who had just led their classmates in another direction heaved a huge sigh of relief. On the other hand, Yun Jian's classmates were all amazed by Yun Jian's calmness after the incident. She was calm, she didn't seem to be panicking at all. Then, everyone suddenly remembered that Mu Ying said that she and Yun Jian had lived in the Amazon forest before. Yun Jian also said that when she entered the Amazon forest, the first beast she encountered was a group of snakes. Wasn't the way she chased away the snakes just now common sense for survival in the wild? If that was the case, Yun Jian, did you really stay in the Amazon forest for 6 months? Lung Hanja frowned and looked at Yun Jian. Chapter 1362. Everyone's curiosity was piqued by Lung Hanja's question. Yun Jian felt everyone's gaze on her, but she wasn't afraid of being stared at all. Instead, she welcomed everyone's attention. Her red lips curled up slightly. Finally, under everyone's expectant gazes, she said, what does it matter if it's true or not? There are believers and there are none who don't. I have nothing to say. With that, Yun Jian turned around and called out to Mu Ying and Lin Wan. Then she led the way. Hey Yun Jian, wait for us. Seeing that Yun Jian and the other two were about to leave, the people around them scrambled to catch up. Even the students from Wulin Military Academy chased after them out of fear. Who would care about their pride now? Was their pride more important than their lives? Following Yun Jian could at least guarantee their own lives. Wu Bukue, Su Wei, Ma Xiaoyao, and the other students from Wulin Military Academy all followed Yun Jian's footsteps. Wherever Yun Jian went, the students followed. Yun Jian didn't intend to shake them off on purpose. From morning to afternoon and then to evening. The evening on the uninhabited island was chilly. There was no one around, and the roars of wild beasts could be heard from time to time. A group of students sat together in a circle, looking a little scared. The firewood is here. It's all here. Hearing Yun Jian's words, Lung Hanja organized a few boys to carry the firewood. It was now piled up in a pile. Yun Jian glanced at it, then said to Lung Hanja, use it sparingly. The fire will burn until the sun rises in the morning. Also, arrange for 2 people to keep watch at night. After saying that, she glanced at the students who were setting up the tents around her. She walked to the side of a big tree, stepped on the ground and leaped lightly. She had already used her fastest speed to leap up the tree, and then lay down on a thick branch. Yunjian, what are you doing? When Peeling saw this scene, she opened her mouth and asked Yunjian in surprise. At the same time, there was a trace of surprise in her eyes. Sleep, Yunjian said and closed her eyes. Sleeping in a tree? Damn, does she think she's filming a martial arts movie? Lin Shuya couldn't help but ridicule her flamboyant personality. Just as Lin Shuya said this, she was pulled by Wen Peeling. Shuya, don't be like this. Yunjian saved us twice. She is our benefactor. Wen Peeling comforted Lin Shuya's shoulder. Lin Shuya replied indignantly, Senior Lingling, you're just so kind. Yunjian didn't listen to a single word of what was being said. She closed her eyes and rested. For the next 3 days they settled down here. During the day the group of boys would go to the beach to fish. Then they would collect firewood and light the firewood at night. This was to prevent the surrounding beasts from approaching without anyone noticing. On the 4th day the group of people picked fresh mushrooms. When they were about to cook and eat them, they were stopped by Yunjian and lectured. Early in the morning of the 5th day, Yunjian was woken up by a scream. She opened her eyes and jumped down the tree. She saw Wen Peeling and a few girls shouting in horror. The group of people around them revealed a panicked expression. She is gone? She is gone. How could a person disappear all of a sudden? Someone asked with a pale face. I remember now. Yesterday evening she walked towards the beach alone. I saw her and asked her what she was doing, but she ignored me. Then I remember that I went to sleep first. A girl's voice trembled slightly as she spoke. In such a gloomy forest, someone in the group suddenly disappeared. This was an indescribably terrifying event. What do we do? What do we do? A girl was so scared that she couldn't speak. Chapter 1363. How did this happen? Why didn't I keep a close eye on her yesterday? Why didn't I notice that there was no one in her tent before I went to bed? Wen Peeling's body trembled as she was comforted by a group of girls. She looked like she had suffered quite a shock. It's okay, Shuya will be fine. Xiang Qishi was scared half to death as well, but she stubbornly held on to her fear. Yunjian jumped down from the tree and walked over. Did you find her? At this time the boys who ran to the beach had returned. Wen Peeling quickly ran over and held Lung Hanja's hand. Lung Hanja shook his head. He pushed Wen Peeling's hand away and walked over to Yunjian and Mu Ying. Yunjian, in this situation should we leave or? Lung Hanja asked for Yunjian's opinion. Stay, Yunjian said without thinking. Damn, my cousin is missing. Are you even human? You're happy that my cousin is missing, aren't you? You hate my cousin for what she did to you before, don't you? When Han Ming heard Yunjian's words, if the people around him didn't hold him back, he would have charged at Yunjian like he had epilepsy. You can leave if you want, if you can. Yunjian stood where she was with her eyes downcast as she spoke nonchalantly, baffling everyone around her. What do you mean? Han Ming stared at Yunjian for 2 seconds and said uneasily. There's a location blocker installed all around us. The emergency devices we have on hand have all lost their effectiveness. A girl with a rather enchanting figure walked over from the side. Looking closely, it was Mu Ying. Mu Ying held 3 or 4 things that looked like routers in her hands. However, they weren't routers. I only found 4 of them. The entire island is installed with these. The instructors won't be able to receive our emergency devices. Mu Ying handed the 4 location jammers to Yunjian and explained to everyone. Didn't you find these location jammers? A few of the students did not believe him. They quickly pressed the emergency button on their body several times. However, after waiting for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, there was no sound at all. The instructors wouldn't even send a helicopter to rescue them. How did this happen? Only then did the students realize the severity of the situation. They were all scared out of their wits. Unless you find all the location jammers within 100 meters of us, your emergency devices won't work. Yunjian looked at all the location jammers that Mu Ying handed to her. Then she stood up straight and said. As she spoke, Yunjian threw all the location jammers on the ground. These location jammers only have an effective range of 100 meters. However, if you want to find them, you have to search through all the soil, trees or leaves within 100 meters, Yunjian said. I found 4 within 100 meters just now. There should be more, Mu Ying said. If you want to go out and find Lin Shuya, look for the location jammers. Yun Jian pointed at the location jammers on the ground. On the 5th day, a group of people gathered together to look for location jammers. On the 6th day they had found more than 10 location jammers. Yun Jian took Lin Wan's emergency device and looked at it. She suddenly stood up and said, "There's another location jammer within 100 meters. As long as we find that location jammer, the emergency device can be used within 100 meters. This was definitely a man-made incident. Because it wasn't just within 100 meters. Every corner of the island was installed with location jammers. Someone did it on purpose. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go look for it." When Peeling's hands tightened and her feet stopped moving, she said excitedly, Yes. We have to contact the instructor quickly. Lin Shuya's travel bag is still with us. If something happens to her, we... Xiang Chishi said fearfully. Bah. What happened? My cousin wouldn't? Han Ming was halfway through his sentence. Found it. It's here. At this moment, someone stood in the distance and shouted to everyone. The student found the last location jammer. He had just recovered from the excitement of being afraid but about to be redeemed. He dug out the last location jammer from the soil. However, he took a big step back and suddenly stepped on something fleshy in the grass. The student stood still and looked over curiously. In the end, he saw. Yun Jian stood in the distance. She had just turned her head when she saw the student leaning over to look behind the grass. At the same time, the student screamed and sat on the ground. Then he shouted crazily and screamed in fear. Chapter 1364. In the bushes, Lin Shuya's eyes were wide open. There seemed to be a trace of blood flowing from her eyeballs. Her lower body had a fatal wound from being bitten by wild beasts. She was suddenly placed in the bushes that could cover her body with her eyes wide open. The student who shouted just now happened to see a trace of blood flowing from Lin Shuya's wide-open eyes. She looked like a female ghost in a movie that died with a grievance. Lin Shuya's body was completely cold and stiff. This was the body of a dead person. Within an hour after death, the body would be completely stiff. This was also the reason why the shroud must be put on within an hour after the death of the elderly. Because once the person died and couldn't change into other clothes in time, it would be very difficult to change clothes after an hour. When the soul returned to reality, the moment the student saw Lin Shuya's body, he sat down on the ground and crawled away. Hearing the student's words, everyone around screamed. It was the kind of fear, horror, and indescribable fear that came from the bones. No. How is it possible? How could Shuya be dead? This is impossible. Impossible. Han Ming was so scared that he didn't dare to go forward and take a look. Lung Hanja heard the voice. Although his hands were trembling violently, he still went forward with a few braver boys to take a look. Before leaving, Lung Hanja said to Muing, "Ying, don't be afraid. Just stand here." Before he finished, Muing followed Yun Jian's footsteps and walked towards Lin Shuya's body. That, really dead. Su Wei, who had quarreled with Lin Shuya on the cruise ship, was also scared. She sat down on the ground. "I want to go home." Seeing this scene, some of the boys cried and shouted that they wanted to go home. When Peeling and Xiang Chishi stepped back, they were so scared that their faces changed drastically. For a moment, the surrounding people cried and shouted that they wanted to go home. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. In contrast, Yun Jian and Muing went up and turned the body out of the bushes. Then they looked up and down a few times. Yun Jian looked at the body a few times and then stood up straight. "Yun Jian, did you find anything?" Lung Hanja strode forward. He couldn't help but look at Lin Shuya's body that looked like it was bitten by a beast. He asked Yun Jian. "No." Yun Jian's eyes flashed. She shook her head calmly and said, "It's here, the helicopter is here." At this time the students saw the helicopter landing. At the same time they saw the instructor's face. As soon as Instructor Zhou got off the plane, he saw the body over there. He instantly frowned and asked uneasily, "What's going on?" Some of the students immediately cried of Instructor Zhou. After Instructor Zhou learned about the situation, his brows furrowed even tighter. Something happened to a student during military training. This was a very thing. But it had already. "Instructor, we want to go home." All the students were clamoring to leave. In the end, no one was willing to stay. Except for Yun Jian. "I'm not leaving. The competition isn't over yet." Yun Jian spoke faintly, her expression nonchalant. No one could tell what she was thinking at the moment. No matter the result of the competition, Lin Shuya's death was confirmed to be caused by a beast. In addition, they encountered the swamp and the snakes later. No one wanted to stay here. Who knew what would happen if they stayed here? Yunjian, are you sure you don't want to leave? Instructor Zhou was surprised. Yes. Yunjian nodded. It's you? It's you? You must be the one who killed my cousin. You planned it, didn't you? If it wasn't you, how did you know about the location blocker? How did you know about the situation here? You must be the one who killed my cousin. You must be holding a grudge because of what my cousin did to you before. Han Ming pointed at Yunjian and shouted crazily in front of the instructor. Then why didn't you say that your cousin also had a dispute with the girl from Wulin Military School? If that's the case, the girl from Wulin Military School is more suspicious. Lin Wan helped Yunjian to reply. I didn't. Su Wei cried back. I won't leave until the competition is over. Yunjian's calm voice sounded again. It was as if the death of a person who was chattering by her side yesterday had no effect on her at all. It was as if death was normal to her. While the people around were afraid, they also became suspicious of Yunjian. They were more surprised that she wasn't afraid at all. Chapter 1365. We're already at this point and you're still not leaving Yunjian? Shuya. Ken, you must have killed her. Only you would be at odds with Shuya and you are the strongest. It's easy for you to take advantage of our absence. You are the biggest suspect. Instructor. Instructor, hurry up and arrest her. Don't let her run away. Han Ming was so agitated that he couldn't control himself. If it weren't for the people around him, Han Ming would have pounced on Yunjian. All right. We'll talk about everything after the 7-day survival event tomorrow. Instructor Zhou glanced at Yunjian and said, Yunjian, since you're not leaving, Min City Military Academy will win the competition if you can hold on until noon tomorrow, Instructor Zhou said and called the other students to leave. As for Lin Shuya's body, no one dared to look at it. Ying, let's go. Lung Hanja waited for Instructor Zhou to finish speaking before he turned to grab Mu Ying's hand. However, Mu Ying dodged his hand. I'll stay with Yunjian, Mu Ying said coldly. At this time, everyone was in a state of panic and fear. Everyone was rushing to leave so no one noticed them. I want to stay with Yunjian too. If Yunjian doesn't leave, I won't leave either. Lin Wan was so scared that her face was frozen. However, she still pinched the corner of her clothes and refused to leave. She sincerely treated Yunjian as a friend. Yunjian was still on this island. Even if Lin Shuya died on this island, and even if she didn't know who killed her, since Yunjian dared to stay, she trusted her. Ying, no matter where you are, I'll stay with you. Lung Hanja made up his mind and refused to leave. When Peeling, who was not far away, originally wanted to leave with the rest, but when she heard Lung Hanja's decision, she also chose to stay. Mad. The students from Min City Military Academy are crazy. This place will kill people. There are still people who chose to stay and die. The Wulin Military Academy students were so scared that they stuttered. After saying that, they ran to the seats of the helicopter one by one, wanting to be the first to leave. After sending off all the students who had withdrawn from the competition, Instructor Zhou took a deep look at Yunjian, then said to her and the few people who had stayed behind, tomorrow at 12 o'clock, I'll send a helicopter here to pick you up. Also, all the students will stay in a hotel near this island and wait for you. Then I'll announce the results of this outdoor survival event. Okay. Yunjian nodded. Those who stayed behind were Yunjian, Mu Ying, Lin Wan, Wen Peeling, Lung Hanja and Lung Hanja's brothers. Lung Hanja's friends were all seniors in the 2nd and 3rd years of high school. When they heard that Lung Hanja wanted to stay, they didn't want to leave. Although Han Ming was somewhat familiar with Lung Hanja, he was also scared that something like this had happened. He was the first to run into the helicopter and escape. On the 6th night, as usual, they piled up firewood for the night. However, because of the previous incident, the 6th night was guarded in groups of 3. The night passed uneventfully. The next day, when it was close to 10 o'clock in the afternoon, Yunjian, who was resting on a thick tree trunk, suddenly jumped down from the tree. Yunjian, where are you going? The instructor will send a helicopter to pick us up at 12 o'clock. Lin Wan saw that and quickly stood up to ask. She was afraid that Yunjian would get lost and suddenly become a corpse like Lin Shuya. I'm going to a fun place. Yunjian curled her lips and didn't say much. However, after hearing her words, everyone's eyelids twitched and they all followed her. No one saw the smile on Yunjian's face. Chapter 1366. After the students left, the uninhabited island fell into silence once again. Although they had spent the night here after the incident, they still had to be extra vigilant in the last 2 hours. At this time Yun Jian was unwilling to stay put. Although everyone was surprised, none of them made a sound. After the previous 2 performances, Yun Jian was undoubtedly the strongest among them. At the same time, no one knew what she was going to do. They didn't ask and just followed her. After walking for about half an hour, Yun Jian led everyone around the forest and came to the side of a small hill. There was a cave at the bottom of the hill. There seemed to be people walking in front of the cave. Yun Jian and the others were covered by the dense bushes and were quite far away, so the people walking in front of the cave didn't notice them. There are people here. Lin Wan covered her mouth and whispered so softly that no one could hear her if they didn't listen carefully. Don't make a sound if you see anything later. Yun Jian whispered to everyone. Her voice was very soft. However, the people around him still nodded very cooperatively. With that, Yun Jian led the group to move softly against the thick bushes and trees. The closer they got, the more they realized that the people standing in front of the cave were soldiers in military uniforms. One of them was the senior instructor who led the team a few days ago. Because they were in the field training camp, everyone liked to sit together at night and joke and talk, so everyone remembered the faces of every instructor. At this time, everyone covered their mouths. Only Yun Jian smiled. She wasn't surprised at all. Just as Lung Hanja, Lin Wan, Wen Peeling, Lung Hanja, and their friends covered their mouths and didn't make a sound, Yun Jian suddenly waved at Mu Ying. Then the 2 of them leaped out of the bushes in tacit understanding. With a flip, they walked toward the men in military uniforms standing at the entrance of the cave. The men in military uniforms were shocked when they saw Yun Jian and Mu Ying. However, they were all agile soldiers. Lung Hanja, Lin Wan, Wen Peeling, and Lung Hanja's friends who were a distance away saw Yun Jian and Mu Ying dashing over and knocking out the men in military uniforms, one of whom was even their instructor, in a matter of seconds. Lung Hanja, Lin Wan, and the others gasped at this scene. They couldn't help but be shocked. Even the senior instructor was no match for Yun Jian and Mu Ying? Just as they were shocked, Yun Jian and Mu Ying rushed into the cave. Soon it was noon. Instructor Zhou brought all the students back to the uninhabited island. Because someone had died on the uninhabited island, and it was their companion who had died, all the students were panicking. Instructor Zhou, you must catch Yun Jian. She must be the one who killed my cousin. Han Mingjing said fiercely. Instructor Zhou narrowed his eyes and looked at the forest. Over there. Someone came out. Someone couldn't help but shout. Is it Yun Jian and the others? They're still alive. Someone shouted again. But when everyone saw Yun Jian walking in front, Lung Hanja's friends were supporting a girl who had fainted, but they could still recognize who she was. Everyone was in an uproar. That's Lin Shuya? No. How is that possible? Isn't Lin Shuya dead? Instructor Zhou saw Yun Jian walking over. At the same time, when he saw Yun Jian calling the boys behind her to support Lin Shuya, his eyelids twitched. He couldn't help but be shocked. He thought Yun Jian was brave enough to insist on staying on this island. But who the hell could tell him how did she manage to break his flawless plan? Chapter 1367. Instructor Zhou lost his composure as he was the first to run toward where Yun Jian and the others were coming from. Looking at Lin Shuya who had fainted, Instructor Zhou held his forehead. The surrounding students were so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths. Han Ming, on the other hand, took 2 steps back. He was so scared that he screamed, "A Shuya? No, isn't Shuya already? She's a ghost? A ghost." Han Ming was so scared that he took 2 steps back. He had an indescribable cowardice. However, someone had already noticed that Lin Shuya, who was supported by Lung Hanja's friends, had a body temperature. This proved that she was still alive. Lin Shuya isn't dead. She's still breathing. A few observant girls noticed that although Lin Shuya was still unconscious, the collar below her nostrils was still floating gently. This meant that she was still breathing. What's going on? I clearly saw Lin Shuya's corpse. How is this possible? The first boy who discovered Lin Shuya's corpse stood out and asked in shock. Are you referring to the fake corpse? If you had looked carefully, you would have easily seen that it was fake. Although it was made to look like Lin Shuya, its characteristics wouldn't have changed. At that time, you were only afraid because Lin Shuya had been missing for a whole day. When you saw the corpse, you instinctively thought that it was Lin Shuya. You didn't even see clearly whether she was real or fake. Mu Ying stood beside Yun Jian and explained Yun Jian's doubts to everyone. Mu Ying's words revealed everything in one sentence. Indeed, after the incident, everyone didn't want to examine the corpse carefully. Even when Lung Hanja approached the corpse, he didn't dare to look directly at it. This also meant that everyone had missed the opportunity to discover the truth. Is it fun to be a spy? Yun Jian suddenly turned sideways and looked at Wen Peeling. She crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes. Wen Peeling, who was called out, was stunned. Instructor Zhou was stunned again. Instructor Zhou was the one who arranged this mission. He wanted to test the standards of this batch of freshmen. In fact, there were many flaws in this. For example, if the student who exclaimed at that time had taken a closer look and realized that Lin Shiya's body wasn't real, then there wouldn't have been so many students quitting the competition. This could be considered a test of a person's psychological quality. However, Instructor Zhou did not expect that Yun Jian had seen through all of this. Originally, Instructor Zhou was the creator of the game, but why did he feel that at this moment he was the confused passerby that was being played by Yun Jian? Yun Jian, what do you mean? Did senior sister Lingling offend you? How dare you call her a spy? Han Ming had a good impression of Wen Peeling, so when he heard Yun Jian's words, he immediately shouted back. Ha, I really can't hide it from you at all. Then I won't pretend anymore. But I have to say, junior sister, you're really amazing. When Wen Peeling heard Yun Jian's words, she was stunned for a few seconds. When she came back to her senses, she smiled at Yun Jian and said, in order to pretend that it was real, she even went against her conscience to secretly look at Lung Hanja and acted like she was in love with him. Han Ming originally thought that Yun Jian was randomly scolding people, but he didn't expect that Wen Peeling was really, ahem, alright, it's time to tell you. I did call Shuya out to knock her out, but I didn't install the location blocker. Plus, I've been with you all the time, so I didn't have the time to do that. As for Shuya, you definitely didn't notice when I knocked her out. Junior sister, I'm really curious, how did you find out that I was with Instructor Zhou? Wen Peeling smiled generously. She changed her pretentious attitude and asked Yun Jian openly. Yun Jian looked up and met Wen Peeling's eyes. Just as Wen Peeling, Instructor Zhou, and all the other students were looking straight at Yun Jian's red lips curled up and she smiled faintly. The loophole is too big. It's hard not to find out. These words made the surrounding people feel a little ashamed. Chapter 1368. Wen Peeling and Instructor Zhou smiled awkwardly. It was obvious that they were embarrassed. However, it was rare for Instructor Zhou to meet someone as good as Yun Jian. Haha. I thought that none of you would be able to pass this time. Who would have thought? The few of you actually passed through directly. Haha, when you return to school this time, you guys will be in the elite class. Instructor Zhou smiled at Yun Jian and Mu Ying and Lin Wan, who were standing beside Yun Jian. There were only 3 people who passed this time. They were Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and Lin Wan. Lung Hanja and his friends were seniors in their 2nd and 3rd year. Wen Peeling was also a senior in her 3rd year. None of them were in the elite class. In other words, the elite class was just organized and opened by Yun Jian's cohort. Therefore, the first batch of people who were selected were Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and Lin Wan. I can really enter the elite class? Oh my god. I can really? Yun Jian, we can really enter the elite class. Mu Ying, I'm not dreaming, right? Lin Wan looked at Yun Jian in disbelief, then looked at Mu Ying. She pointed at herself and was so excited that words couldn't describe it. Yun Jian, so you already knew that the corpse was fake from the beginning? A girl in the same class as Yun Jian asked. Hearing this, Yun Jian replied softly, yes. Since you knew, why didn't you tell us? You're too much. You're deliberately trying to make our Wulin Military Academy lose the competition, aren't you? Su Wei stood in the distance. After hearing Yun Jian's reply, she pointed at Yun Jian and cursed. The students from Min City Military School did not blame Yun Jian, because if it were not for Yun Jian, their school would not have won against the students from Wulin Military School. But the students from Wulin Military Academy were different. This was originally a competition between 2 schools. The school that had more people passing would win. But now, it seemed that no one from Wulin Military Academy had passed. Therefore, Min City Military School's victory was assured. The students from Wulin Military Academy were not convinced. Su Wei took the lead to scold Yun Jian. Hearing this, the students from Min City Military Academy couldn't hold it in anymore. However, before the students from Min City Military Academy could help Yun Jian rebuke them, Yun Jian spoke to Su Wei herself. Yes, I knew it from the beginning, but why should I tell you? Also, I can tell you very clearly that I deliberately want your school to lose the competition. If you have the ability, discover it yourself. As she spoke, she narrowed her eyes with a smirk. Yun Jian's words caused the students from Min City Military Academy to agree. That's right, you Wulin Military Academy don't have the ability, and you still have the nerve to bark. Our Yunjian is powerful so she can win. What about you? You don't have the ability, so what are you shouting for? Yes. If you have the guts, show us your ability. If you don't, then go away. The students from Min City Military Academy started to fight back vigorously and soon gained the upper hand. At this moment, all the students from Min City Military Academy were proud to be in the same school as Yun Jian. At this moment, Yun Jian was everyone's idol, the god that everyone worshipped. The god of killing. She lived up to her name. She was worthy of this title and had the ability to do so. Students from Wulin Military Academy, get lost, haha. All the students from Min City Military Academy began to yell at the same time. Yun Jian is number one. Yun Jian is invincible. Yun Jian. Yun Jian. Yun Jian. For a moment, the curses and cheers resounded through the sky. Chapter 1369. The commotion lasted for half an hour until the students from Wulin Military School could not even lift their heads from the scolding. It was only then that the students from Min City Military School surrounded Yun Jian and boarded the cruise ship rented by the instructor to return home. When Yun Jian closed her eyes to rest, her classmates would hand her a bottle of water or a piece of biscuit politely, asking her if she was thirsty or hungry. They were extremely courteous. It was like how actors were treated when they met their fans. When they returned to the military school, it was already the 3rd of September. The military school started on the 3rd of August. A month's time was neither too much nor too little, so the return trip happened to be the 3rd of September. The students from Wulin Military School returned to Anjing Province dejectedly. The students from Min City Military School, on the other hand, surrounded Yun Jian as they went back. The freshmen who did not participate in the outdoor survival activities were resting at home. When Yun Jian and the rest of the group returned to the military school, the students from the 2nd and 3rd years had already started their classes as usual. Lung Hanja, Wen Peeling, and the rest of the seniors who were invited back to lead the team were given a week-long break. Yun Jian and the rest of the freshmen were given a week-long break as well. It was considered a benefit after a month of long-term military training. Of course, the official classes would begin a week later. In other words, classes would officially begin on the 10th of September when they returned to school. Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and Lin Wan moved their luggage to the classroom of Year 1-2 first and packed their bags to go home. The elite class had yet to be reorganized, so Yun Jian and the other two could not form a class. The school would start selecting students when school reopened. There were a total of 30 places. This meant that there were 27 freshmen in Year 1 other than Yun Jian and the other two who would enter the elite class. Yun Jian had also heard that the elite class had more practical training. This was to her liking as well. It was already 3 in the afternoon when she returned to the military school. After placing her luggage in the classroom, Yun Jian planned to return to Longmen City. She even went to greet Chu Ning and the rest before she left. Chu Ning shrieked the moment she saw Yun Jian, yelling, "Hey! Yun Jian, your performance during the military training has spread like wildfire. Now you're a celebrity in our school. Do you have to be so powerful?" He even defeated a senior instructor during the wilderness survival event. That last sentence immediately attracted the attention of a lot of people. Yun Jian? Is that Slashing God from Team Monarch? It was said that during the military training she had beaten up a senior instructor. He had even messed up an instructor's meticulous plan. The moment they returned to school, they were escorted back by their fellow freshmen. The surrounding students turned to look at Yun Jian, only to see Yun Jian grinning at Chu Ning. Then she said, "I'll take my leave first. I'll treat you guys to supper next time." Chu Ning's eyes lit up at the mention of supper. She nodded and said, Okay, it's a deal." Yun Jian pressed her lips together and turned to leave with Mu Ying. Lin Wan's parents were civil servants who worked in the government while her grandfather was a lawyer. Their statuses were extraordinary. Lin Wan, on the other hand, was physically stronger and had yearned to be as cool as a policewoman since she was young, so she chose to study in the military school. Lin Wan's upbringing was good. Her parents came to pick her up right after school, so after bidding farewell to Yun Jian and Mu Ying, Lin Wan went home first. "Want to stay at my place for a night?" Yun Jian and Mu Ying walked to the school gate. Mu Ying cocked her head at Yun Jian and asked with a grin. Chapter 1370. After all, they had not seen each other for years. Yun Jian had agreed to Mu Ying's invitation immediately. When they were on the uninhabited island, Mu Ying had invited Yun Jian back to the Amazon forest for a stroll and Yun Jian had agreed. Therefore, Mu Ying and Yun Jian had brought up the topic when they walked to the school gate together. Yun Jian, let's go back to the Amazon forest together tomorrow? Mu Ying asked. Mu Ying and Yun Jian were never joking. When they were on the uninhabited island, Mu Ying and Yun Jian's conversation was very normal, but it was treated as a joke. However, even if there was no one around, their conversation would still be the same and would not change. It was just that their conversation was overheard by their classmates passing by and they could not help turning to look at them. Could it be that these two beautiful girls were fools? Yun Jian and Mu Ying were not bothered. Yun Jian replied Mu Ying immediately, see you the day after tomorrow in Longmen City. I'm going home. I haven't been back for a month. Mu Ying nodded at Yun Jian's reply. Yun Jian had already called Qin Yiru to tell her that she would not be going home tonight but tomorrow. Ying. Just as both of them walked out of the school gate and were about to turn into a fork in the road, Lung Hanja's loud shout came from behind them. Yun Jian and Mu Ying did not even have to turn around to imagine Lung Hanja's current state. Why are you following me? Mu Ying only asked softly when Lung Hanja ran up to Mu Ying. I'm worried about you guys, so I'm sending you home. Lung Hanja could not find a reason, so he came up with a random excuse. Yun Jian could tell how fake it was right away, but no one pointed it out. Up to you, Mu Ying said softly. Then she walked side by side with Yun Jian, tacitly agreeing that Lung Hanja was following her. Lung Hanja was happy to see this. His Ying could finally let him follow her. He was already very satisfied with this. The Mu family was Mu Ying's family. Unlike outsiders, the Mu family lived together as a whole family. At the same time, the Mu family lived in an extremely luxurious villa. Mu Ying's grandparents were still in charge of the Mu family. Mu Ying's grandparents and uncles, as long as they were male relatives who lived in the main house with her, were all soldiers. Among them, Mu Ying's grandfather held the highest position. Mu Ying was truly the second generation of the military. Mu Ying's grandparents had 3 sons, all of whom were soldiers. Mu Ying was the daughter of the second son's family. She had a biological brother above her. They were both soldiers and their status was not low. After Mu Ying brought Yun Jian home, Lung Hanja followed her in. Mu Ying's aunt stood in the middle of the villa. Mu Ying's aunt, Madame Yang, had always been at odds with Mu Ying. When Madame Yang saw Mu Ying bringing Yun Jian home, she was about to scold her when she saw Lung Hanja. Lung Hanja was the son of the Mu family. His status was even higher than the Mu family. Not only was he the second generation of an official, he was also the second generation of a rich family. Hanja is here? Quick, come in. The moment she saw Lung Hanja, Mu Ying's aunt, Madame Yang, ran over. Look who's here. Your brother Hanja is here. Hurry up and come down. This was Madame Yang's ultimate goal. Madame Yang shouted up the stairs. Not long after, Madame Yang's daughter, Mu Ro, ran down the stairs. Yun Jian and Mu Ying were standing not far away from Lung Hanja. Madame Yang pulled her daughter, Mu Ro, over and pushed Mu Ying aside. She then looked coldly at Yun Jian before asking Lung Hanja about his well-being. Chapter 1371. As Madame Yang spoke, she couldn't help but push her daughter, trying to get her daughter to lean against Lung Hanja. Lung Hanja's status in the family was not something the Mu family could compare to. Although the Lung family and the Mu family had been friends for generations, the Lung family was not only stronger than the Mu family in terms of military power, but more importantly, the Lung family was also involved in the legal business and developed rapidly in business. Their legal business influence was even well known in country Z. Madame Yang wasn't a fool. She understood and desperately wanted her daughter to get close to Lung Hanja, this treasure mountain. As for Mu Ying, Madame Yang had always disliked her. Even Mu Ying's daughter, Yun Jian, was hostile towards her. Mu Ro could be considered Mu Ying's cousin, but she didn't get along with Mu Ying. After hearing her mother's words, Mu Ro glared at Mu Ying fiercely before leaning towards Lung Hanja. Brother Hanjin, you haven't come to visit me in so long. Sister Ro misses you so much, Mu Ro said coquettishly. At the same time, she wanted to pounce on Lung Hanja. However, before Mu Ro could pounce on Lung Hanja dodged. Mu Ro, please respect yourself, Lung Hanja said coldly. Only when he was facing Mu Ying would his expression change. Mu Ro stood there awkwardly. Madame Yang's face instantly turned red. Yun Jian, let's go to the backyard. Mu Ying didn't even look at Madame Yang and Mu Ro's expressions. She planned to bring Yun Jian directly to the backyard. Mu Ying had never looked at Madame Yang and Mu Ro in the eye. Mu Ying wasn't interested in these nominal aunts and cousins. She didn't have the mood to play tricks with them. If it weren't for her grandparents treating her well, Mu Ying would have moved out long ago. Backyard? Mu Ying, stop right there. How dare you bring an outsider to the backyard? Are you crazy? The backyard is where our Mu family's own people train. When Madame Yang heard Mu Ying's words, her expression changed drastically. She rushed forward and blocked Mu Ying and Yun Jian's path, not allowing Mu Ying and Yun Jian to continue walking towards the back door of the villa. Outsiders are not allowed to enter? Why haven't I heard of this before? Didn't Lung Hanja go there often? His surname isn't Mu Ying. Hearing Madame Yang's words, Mu Ying's face darkened as she spoke softly. Lung Hanja was a little disappointed to hear Mu Ying call him by his full name, but he was also glad that his Ying mentioned him again. In contrast to Lung Hanja's disappointment, Madame Yang's expression darkened. That's right, the backyard of the Mu family was a specialized training ground. The Mu family was originally a military family. All the men in the Mu family were soldiers and half of the women in the military were women. As the leader of a military family, Old Master Mu had built a special training ground for the Mu family to practice their skills in protecting the country. This simple training ground was located in the backyard of the Mu family. Madame Yang stopped Yun Jian purely because she didn't like Mu Ying, so she found a random reason to stop Yun Jian. However, Mu Ying's words stunned Madame Yang. Indeed, Madame Yang stopped Yun Jian because Yun Jian wasn't a member of the Mu family. However, Lung Hanja wasn't a member of the Mu family either, and it wasn't his first time entering the backyard training ground. Madame Yang was speechless. At this moment, Mu Ying had already pulled Yun Jian to the back door and opened it. Yeah. Be careful of the fan. The moment the back door opened, a girl who was training in the backyard couldn't hold back her fan and threw it straight at Yun Jian. The girl screamed in fright. Mu Ying's eyes flickered. Mu Rou and Madame Yang, who were standing in the distance, looked gloating when they saw this. Just as the fan was about to hit Yun Jian's delicate face, she suddenly extended her hand and caught the fan firmly without even looking up at its trajectory like a specter. Chapter 1372. Madame Yang and Mu Rou were obviously shocked. The Mu family members were usually in the military, but Madame Yang and Mu Rou were different. Madame Yang was born as a rich young lady, and she didn't want her daughter to fight and kill, so she wanted her daughter to take the high school entrance exams and college entrance exams. This was originally a very common thing, but it was not common in the Mu family. Other than the descendants of the Mu family who had no talent at all, the rest of the family members worked hard to become outstanding soldiers. Madame Yang actually envied the people in the Mu family from the bottom of her heart. Sometimes, when they went out, they even bragged about who was more powerful in the Mu family. But Madame Yang never thought that the friend that her most hated niece, Mu Ying, brought back would be so powerful. Madame Yang was dumbfounded. Like Madame Yang, Mu Rou was also dumbfounded. Mu Rou originally thought that she was the only one who didn't know how to use knives and guns, but now there was Yun Jian who didn't know how to use knives and guns even more than her. Because Yun Jian looked soft and weak, Mu Rou automatically classified Yun Jian as an ordinary person. But she never thought that Yun Jian would catch the fan flying towards her without even looking. If the fan hit Yun Jian's face, the pain would be unavoidable, but there wouldn't be any major problems. Just as Madame Yang and Mu Rou were stunned, they saw Yun Jian throw the fan back to the girl who had missed. Yun Jian seemed to throw the fan lightly, but when the girl over there caught the fan, her hands and feet were in a mess for a while. Let's go over there. Mu Ying pointed to a short and old wooden hut next to the training ground. Okay. Yun Jian softly replied. When the two of them walked over, Madame Yang and Mu Rou were still in shock. When Madame Yang and Mu Rou came to their senses, Mu Rou stomped her feet, then shouted at Yun Jian's back, "You're so powerful, if you have the guts, stay later and spar with my eldest cousin." Everyone could hear the provocation and unwillingness in her words. Yun Jian only laughed coldly but didn't do anything else. Mu Rou, who stood rooted to the ground, could only stomp her feet. Lung Hanja, on the other hand, chased after Mu Ying. "Ayo, I haven't asked your name yet? You actually caught my fan just now, and also, I almost couldn't catch it when you threw it back at me. Can you tell me, how did you train to be so powerful? Can you teach me?" The girl who accidentally threw the fan in front of Yun Jian immediately ran over. When Yun Jian and Mu Ying were about to enter the wooden hut, she caught up to Yun Jian and stopped her, looking at her with a pair of curious eyes. "It's very simple." Yun Jian didn't say much, she only said these three words, then entered the wooden hut with Mu Ying. I'm Ying Ying's little cousin, my name is Mu Shuang. Big sister, can you tell me how to play this fan as well as you? The girl who called herself Mu Shuang saw Yun Jian enter the wooden hut. She followed up and asked. Mu Shuang was the youngest daughter of Mu Ying's uncle. She was 15 years old now and was already in the 3rd year of middle school. She had been mischievous since young, but was determined to become an outstanding soldier. When she saw Yun Jian playing with the fan so well, she quickly ran over to ask. Yun Jian smiled faintly but didn't say much. Thus, Mu Shuang followed Yun Jian and Mu Ying into the wooden hut. Inside the wooden hut, Mu Ying led Yun Jian to a place where weapons were placed, then pointed at a shabby little desk in front of them, where all kinds of butterfly knives were placed. These are the butterfly knives I've collected over the years. I know you like them. I thought I'd never see you again, but now I'm giving them to you personally. Mu Ying turned to look at Yun Jian, her eyes flashing with sincerity. Hearing this, Mu Shuang didn't know what to say. Chapter 1373. Something flickered in Yun Jian's eyes when she heard Mu Ying's words. She went over and caressed the pile of butterfly knives on the small, shabby desk. Then there was a deathly silence. It was as quiet as still water. At this moment, even the talkative Mu Shuang and the suspicious Leng Hanja couldn't help but hold their breaths. Just when Mu Shuang and Leng Hanja thought Yun Jian wouldn't speak, they heard Yun Jian's calm and gentle voice. I like it a lot. Her voice sounded very ordinary, but compared to Yun Jian's voice, it was a little lighter. It was a voice that could make one's imagination run wild. Mu Shuang's heart trembled slightly. It's good that you like it. Mu Ying turned her head and smiled at Yun Jian. The way they spoke was very ordinary, as if they were strangers who had just met. But the two of them gave Leng Hanja and Mu Shuang the same feeling as if they were old friends. Although they didn't know why they felt this way, Leng Hanja and Mu Shuang were completely shocked. Even they didn't know why they were shocked. It wasn't until a rough and hoarse roar came from outside the wooden hut that everyone reacted. What? Little sister Mu Ro, someone bullied you? Oh, who bullied you? The male voice was slightly hoarse, as if he was shouting at the top of his lungs. Soon Mu Ro's soft and pitiful voice came from outside the wooden hut. No, no one bullied me. Cousin Mu Ying also didn't casually bring strangers into the backyard. When this voice came out, the few people standing in the small wooden house in the backyard could even imagine Mu Ro's pitiful appearance when she pretended to be herself. What? Mu Ying brought strangers into the backyard? That's our Mu family's secret training ground. Does she want the whole world to know that we have a training ground? I'm going to teach her a lesson now. The rough male voice growled angrily. Then they could hear the owner of the male voice walking towards them with large strides. Let's go out first, Mu Ying said to Yun Jian with a slight frown. Okay. Yun Jian nodded. When the two of them were about to walk out of the cabin, they heard Mu Shuang's surprised voice. Why are there fewer butterfly knives here? Didn't I just count 21? Right after Mu Shuang spoke, Yun Jian parted the hem of her shirt and showed the butterfly knives strapped to her waist side by side for her to see. Mu Shuang was stunned. After a while, she came back to her senses and stared at Yun Jian with wide eyes. When did you hide the butterfly knife? I clearly saw that you didn't do anything just now. And how did you hide so many butterfly knives? It looks like you didn't hide anything at all. This is too powerful. Mu Shuang's words were exactly what surprised Leng Hanja. Yun Jian smiled. She didn't say anything and walked out of the cabin with Mu Ying. After Yun Jian and Mu Ying walked out of the cabin, they saw the owner of the rough voice standing in front of them. This person was about 20 years old. He was wearing a military uniform and looked quite handsome. Seeing an unfamiliar girl standing beside Mu Ying, the man in military uniform frowned. Mu Ro was standing beside him. After the man frowned, he turned to look at Yun Jian. He shouted at Mu Ying angrily, Mu Ying, are you the one who brought this stranger into our backyard? As he spoke, the man clenched his fists, causing them to emit cracking sounds as he spoke in a dignified manner. Chapter 1374. This man was Mu Shuang's biological older brother and also the biological son of Mu Ying's uncle. His name was Mu Rui. He was 28 years old and served as a special forces soldier in the army. Although Mu Rui was Mu Shuang's biological older brother, for some reason he doted on his cousin Mu Ro. In the past, whenever Mu Ro was bullied, he would act as if he had heard something terrible and rush up to protect Mu Ro. It was the same today. When Mu Ro said such a sentence in front of Mu Rui shouted at Mu Ying in a hoarse voice. Mu Ying brought Yun Jian out not because she wanted to deal with Mu Rui. Yun Jian, I'll pack the remaining butterfly knives for you when you go home. Let's go to my room now, Mu Ying said as she led Yun Jian around Mu Rui. Mu Rui saw this. Because his biological younger sister, Mu Shuang, grabbed his arm and told him not to make things difficult for Yun Jian, he had already planned to stop. Just as he thought this, he heard Mu Rou cry softly to Madame Yang, I don't have a biological older brother. You all have biological older brothers. Mom, why don't you give birth to a biological older brother for me? Mu Ying was the daughter of the eldest son, second son, and third son of the Mu family. The second son and third son of the Mu family each had a boy and a girl. Only the eldest son had a girl. Mu Ying also had a biological older brother, but he didn't come back today. Mu Rou's cries were too much for the people present, especially Mu Rui. He was closer to Mu Rou. When he heard Mu Rou's words, he immediately stood in front of Yun Jian and Mu Ying. Mu Ying, how did you bully younger sister Mu Rou just now? Or did you say that this friend of yours bullied younger sister Mu Rou? Hurry up and apologize. Mu Rui said as he clenched his fist. Seeing her brother, Mu Rui, bullying Mu Ying and Yun Jian, and knowing that her brother was very strong, Mu Shuang quickly ran away. She ran away, but she didn't really run away. Instead, she went to call for help. Seeing that Mu Rui stood up for her, Mu Rou, who was standing behind Mu Rui, sneered at Mu Ying and Yun Jian from an angle that Mu Rui couldn't see. Mu Rui was a Special Forces soldier, and a National Key Special Forces soldier. He was very strong, more powerful than the average Advanced Special Forces soldier, and was protected by the country. At the same time, Mu Rui would be qualified to represent Country Z and enter the hunting school in half a year's time. The number of Special Forces soldiers in Country Z who could enter the hunting school could be counted on one hand, but it was also the lifelong wish of countless Special Forces soldiers. To be selected as a candidate to enter the hunting school, there was no doubt that Mu Rui was very strong. After all, for a place like the hunting school, the death rate was extremely high if an ordinary person entered. There, the elimination rate could sometimes be as high as 80%. It was the world's most famous devil training base. This also fully explained Mu Rui's strength. Brother Mu Rui, this girl has some skills. Why don't you guys have a one-on-one fight? Let her see how strong you are. Mu Rou stopped pretending to cry. She looked up at Yun Jian and said to Mu Rui smugly. After saying that, Mu Rou even bragged to Yun Jian, my brother Mu Rui is a Special Forces soldier who is about to represent the country and enter the hunting school. Do you know about the hunting school? It's the internationally famous Special Forces training base. There was an indescribable sense of bragging in her words. Hearing Mu Rou's words, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. Mu Rui also raised his head slightly under Mu Rou's bragging, feeling a little proud. He was only 28 years old and already qualified to enter the hunting school. This was unheard of in the entire Country Z. However, the Special Forces soldiers who were qualified to enter the hunting school were generally not younger than 40 years old. Just as Mu Rui was feeling proud, Yun Jian smiled and said, what a coincidence. I'm going to the hunting school too. It would have been better if Yun Jian did not say anything. Once she said that, Mu Rou and Mu Rui were dumbfounded. What? Yun Jian was going to the hunting school too? She could go too? How old was she? She was at most 17 years old. Chapter 1375. The hunting school is not a place that young people like you can go to whenever you want. Moreover, you have to sign a life and death agreement before entering the hunting school. Do you know what a life and death agreement is? Signing a life and death agreement means that once you enter the hunting school, no matter what happens, the consequences will be borne by the student. During the training period, you can die at any time. Die. Aren't you afraid? When Mu Rui came back to his senses, he obviously did not believe what Yun Jian said. For a moment, he forgot what he said earlier and spoke to Yun Jian in a very agitated tone. To be able to enter and graduate from the hunting school was a great honor in the eyes of the special forces from various countries. Mu Rui was also proud to be qualified to enter the hunting school. However, now that a young girl suddenly stood in front of him and told him that she wanted to go to the hunting school, other than not believing it, Mu Rui was extremely displeased that Yun Jian used something that was a great honor in his eyes to fool around. Therefore, when he spoke to Yun Jian, Mu Rui's tone was rather agitated and had a hint of disgust towards Yun Jian. Mu Rui said so much because he wanted Yun Jian to back off and recognize herself. The hunting school was not a place that anyone could enter just because they wanted to. Not everyone could enter just because they felt that they were qualified. Just when Mu Rui thought that the life and death agreement he mentioned would scare Yun Jian into backing off, he saw Yun Jian curl her lips into a faint smile. In the next second, she stopped smiling and raised her cold eyes. I know everything about the hunting school better than you do. As for the life and death agreement, if you want to use your strength to defy the heavens and disregard life and death, you don't deserve to say that. Yunjian's voice was not loud, but it was so clear that Mu Rue and everyone around felt that her voice was extremely loud. Everyone around them was stupefied by Yunjian's words. Don't make it sound like you've really been to the hunting school. You're just a little kid in your teens. You really know so much. If you have the ability. At this time, Mu Rou dropped her soft and weak disguise. She was interrupted halfway through her words. Ah. This little girl's words were quite interesting. I love it. An old man in his 70s wearing a military uniform walked over from afar. There were several people behind the old man, all of whom were dressed in military uniforms. At this moment, Mu Shuang, who had just run out, was holding Grandpa Shin's hand and walking over. Needless to say, he was Mu Ying's grandfather, Grandpa Mu. Grandpa, look at my brother. He only knows how to bully people. Mu Shuang grabbed Grandpa Mu's hand and shook it. Then she pointed at Mu Rue and said to Grandpa Mu, "Ha ha. Little girl, you said that you know more about the hunting school than my grandson, Rue. Then have you been to the hunting school?" Grandpa Mu smiled kindly at Mu Shuang. Then he turned his eyes to Yunjian and laughed. Mu Rue could be considered as Grandpa Mu's grandson. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Grandpa Mu was not as simple as he seemed. Yes. Yunjian made a muffled sound from her throat. Little girl, standing in front of you is Grandpa Mu, one of the first batch of special forces to be sent to the hunting school to further his studies. He is the only one in that batch who successfully graduated from the hunting school. He is also the first student to graduate from the hunting school in our country. Even the principal of the hunting school, Chan's, keeps in touch with Grandpa Mu. One of the people standing behind Grandpa Mu said loudly to Yunjian. His words were full of pride and bragging. Even Grandpa Mu was affected by the atmosphere and felt a trace of pride in his heart. However, at this moment, Yunjian, who was standing in front of everyone, suddenly smiled and looked straight at Grandpa Mu. She said calmly. Chapter 1376. Chan's was the principal of the hunting school. Hearing Yunjian's words, Old Master Mu and the people standing behind him were all stunned. Even Mu Rue gasped. How dare Yunjian talk about the principal of the hunting school like that? Did she know what she was saying? After they came back to their senses, Mu Rou and Mrs. Yang stood at a distance. Mu Rou questioned Yunjian. Are you out of your mind to show off? How dare you talk about Principal Chan's like that? Even my grandpa is respectful to Principal Chan's. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk about Principal Chan's like that? Mu Rou kept mentioning Principal Chan's, but in fact Mu Rou did not even know what Principal Chan's looked like. It was only because Old Master Mu used to talk about Principal Chan's in front of his children and grandchildren in a respectful tone. Therefore Mu Rou played along with Old Master Mu's favorite words and talked back to Yunjian. Yunjian chuckled softly at that. It was a cold sneer. Seeing this, Old Master Mu's heart skipped a beat. Just as Mu Rou finished speaking, Old Master Mu looked at Yunjian in shock. Without caring about Mu Rou, he continued, How did you know that Principal Chan's was assassinated by a high-level assassin? He looked at Yunjian in shock with his mouth slightly agape. This scene stunned the people standing behind Old Master Mu. It had been many years since Old Master Mu showed such a shocked expression. And most importantly, the rude words that the little girl had just said were actually the truth? Is it that hard to find out? Yunjian glanced sideways at Old Master Mu. She pursed her lips slightly and smiled. If Old Master Mu only treated Yunjian as an interesting child at the beginning, he had to look at her seriously now. To the average person it was very difficult to find out about this. However, to the people in the underworld and the industry, this was not a secret at all. It was the first time that Grandpa Mu had met a little girl whom he could not see through. He narrowed his eyes. Grandpa Mu suddenly burst into laughter to ease the awkwardness. Haha, you little girl, interesting. It was really too interesting. That's right, Principal Chan's was indeed assassinated by a group of high-level assassins some time ago. I didn't expect a junior like you to know about this. Old Master Mu did not plan to get to the bottom of Yunjian's story in front of everyone. He even changed the way he addressed Yunjian from a little girl to a little girl. If it had been anyone else present, they would have asked Yunjian everything. However, Grandpa Mu was already in his 70s. At his age he had experienced a lot. Naturally, he understood that the more mysterious something was, the more it was best not to get to the bottom of it. He wouldn't do anything that would bring trouble to himself. Grandpa Mu's words made Mu Ro feel ashamed. After all, Mu Ro was the first one who stood out to refute Yun Jian. Mu Rue didn't expect that Yun Jian would know so much about something that even he didn't know. For the first time he felt that he had met his match. And the other party was a girl who was not even 18 years old yet. "Little girl, you're so interesting. You must stay with us for a few more days. I heard that the military academy has a 7-day break, right? Why don't you stay with us for the next few days?" Grandpa Mu tried to persuade Yun Jian to stay. It was a very ordinary way to persuade someone to stay. However, when it came from Grandpa Mu's mouth, the meaning was very different. Grandpa Mu had a great military record when he was young. He was even a general. Even though he had retired now, he was still very prestigious. Most importantly, those who could be invited by Grandpa Mu to stay were either elites with amazing military records or famous military talents. However, it was the first time he had seen someone invite a teenage girl in such a solemn tone. Therefore, everyone around was surprised, especially those standing behind Grandpa Mu. Chapter 1377. Yun Jian's rejection was straightforward, leaving no room for negotiation. Yun Jian's rejection left everyone dumbfounded. Even old Master Mu himself was a little surprised. In the past, people could not wait to curry favor with him. But today he personally invited Yun Jian, but Yun Jian turned him down on the spot. This was something that had never happened before. Slightly shocked, old Master Mu swallowed his saliva. Then he swallowed and said to Yun Jian, "Little girl, you must come to my house when you're free." Okay. Yun Jian nodded this time. Mu Ying was at the Mu family's house, so she would definitely come over. "Yun Jian, let's go." Mu Ying pulled Yun Jian's hand and walked towards her room in the villa. After taking 2 steps, Mu Ying thought of Leng Hanja again. She turned to look at Leng Hanja expressionlessly and said to him, "You can leave first." After that, she went to Yun Jian's room with her. Old Master Mu and the others who were standing on the training ground were totally ignored. Fortunately, old Master Mu knew Mu Ying well. As Mu Ying's friend, Yun Jian must be the same. "Let's go. Let's go." Old Master Mu smiled awkwardly and then left with his people. Mu Ro, who was standing at the same spot, stomped her feet. Madame Yang pressed her shoulder. Seeing that Mu Rue had left, Mu Ro said to Mrs. Yang angrily, "Mom, I'm so angry." Don't worry. Humph, I don't believe that I can't handle these 2 girls." Mrs. Yang snorted and comforted her daughter. She looked at Yun Jian and Mu Ying's figures and wondered why she was so angry. Yun Jian and Mu Ying had just taken 2 steps when a sweet girl's voice came from behind. "Sister Mu Ying, wait for me." As soon as she said that, Yun Jian caught sight of a small figure hugging Yun Jian and Mu Ying's shoulders. Yun Jian did not avoid it. It was Mu Shuang. Mu Shuang and Mu Ying were very close. She also liked Yun Jian. "I was the one who called Grandpa here just now. I was afraid that Auntie and the others would trick my brother to bully you guys together." Mu Shuang stood between Yun Jian and Mu Ying happily as she hugged both of their shoulders. Mu Shuang was only 1 year younger than Yun Jian's current body. Her actual age was 2 years younger. However, Mu Shuang gave people the feeling that she was a little sister who should be protected. Even Mu Ying, who had a cold personality, could not help but reach out and rub Mu Shuang's head. She said softly, "Good girl." Mu Shuang lowered her head shyly. Then she turned to Yun Jian and asked, "Sister, can I sleep with you and Sister Mu Ying tonight?" "Up to you." Yun Jian threw her 2 simple words. "Yeah, that's great. I'll go get my blanket." Mu Shuang ran to her room energetically. The Mu family had dinner together as a family. Other than Madame Yang and Mu Ro, everyone else was especially friendly to Yun Jian. Before going to bed, Mu Ying's current mother, Tian Fangfang, deliberately changed the bedsheets and quilts. She even asked Yun Jian if she was not used to it and told her to tell her everything. She was extremely polite. 1:30 a.m. Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and Mu Shuang were lying on the bed. They were not asleep and were still chatting. Although they were chatting, it was actually Mu Shuang who was talking the whole time. "Sisters, I feel that you're both amazing. You're my role models," Mu Shuang said a lot. Just as she was about to say something, Yun Jian suddenly covered her mouth. In the dark, she saw Yun Jian make a shushing gesture. Mu Shuang immediately shut her mouth. Just as she shut her mouth, she heard a sound from the corridor outside. It was so soft that if one did not listen carefully, one would not be able to hear it at all. "Mom, are they really asleep?" "They must be asleep. I saw them lying on the bed to rest at 9:30 a.m. How could they not be asleep now? It's been almost 4 hours. Be quiet. Don't let anyone hear you. Chapter 1378. If it wasn't for Yun Jian covering Mu Shuang's mouth in time, Madame Yang and Mu Rou, who were sneaking in from the corridor outside the bedroom, would have definitely heard Mu Shuang's voice. Madame Yang and Mu Rou might have immediately retreated. But at this moment, Madame Yang and Mu Rou didn't hear any sound, so they thought that Yun Jian and the other two had really fallen asleep. Yun Jian covered Mu Shuang's mouth, and Mu Shuang was very obedient and didn't make any sound. Even her breathing slowed down a lot. Then about 30 seconds passed outside the corridor, but there was no sound of Madame Yang and Mu Rou's voices. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. She knew that Madame Yang and Mu Rou must have their ears pressed against the bedroom door to check if the three of them were really asleep. Mu Shuang blinked. Although she didn't know what the situation was, she was willing to follow Yun Jian's instructions. 30 seconds later, Madame Yang, who was leaning against the bedroom door, finally confirmed that Yun Jian and the other two were really asleep. Thus Madame Yang's voice sounded again. Later, after I use the knockout powder to knock them out, you guys quickly sneak in and get it over with quickly. Remember, after this you have to pretend that this place was stolen by thieves. Those three women were just an accident during your theft. Madame Yang used a low voice to speak to the people in the shadows. Her voice was very soft, so soft that Mu Shuang couldn't hear it at all. However, Yun Jian could clearly hear every word that Madame Yang said. Mu Ying could also hear every word that Madame Yang, who was standing in the corridor at this moment, said. Mom, hurry up. I already can't wait to see the three of them fall from grace. Especially Mu Ying. Who told her to pretend to be cold and aloof all the time. I want to see if Brother Hanja still wants her after he finds out that she has lost her virginity. Brother Hanja is mine. No one can steal it. After a while Mu Rou's voice could be heard. The more she spoke, the more excited she became. In the end, Yun Jian heard Madame Yang tugging at Mu Rou and whispering to Mu Rou, lower your voice. Do you want to wake them up? Then there was no sound from the corridor, but Yun Jian knew that the silence was the prelude to the arrival of danger. Yun Jian released the hand covering Mu Shuang's mouth. She turned over and jumped off the bed, but strangely she didn't make any sound. After she got off the bed, she walked over to the coffee table next to Mu Ying's window and took out 3 pieces of tissue. Then she silently walked back to the bed and handed the other 2 pieces of tissue to Mu Shuang and Mu Ying under the moonlight that shone through the window. After Mu Shuang and Mu Ying took the tissue, Yun Jian cut her piece of tissue in half and skillfully stuffed it between her nostrils. Mu Shuang and Mu Ying did the same. Madame Yang, who was outside the door, used the small crack under the bedroom door to blow in the knockout incense. She didn't stop until she was sure that the amount was enough to knock out Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and Mu Shuang. By this time, Madame Yang had already confirmed that Yun Jian and the other 2 had been knocked out. She directly used the spare key to open the door to Mu Ying's room, then beckoned the few vulgar men who were dressed like beggars to enter Mu Ying's room. Remember what I said. Be quick with your hands and feet. Hurry up and come out when you're done. Madame Yang said impatiently. The few vulgar men dressed like beggars walked into Mu Ying's room one after another. After a while there were banging sounds and muffled grunts. Why were the grunts so rough? Madame Yang shook her head and stopped thinking about it. It was fine as long as it was done. After about 10 minutes, Madame Yang pulled her daughter Mu Rou to open the door. She thought that the beggars were done and urged them to hurry up. However, the moment she opened the door, Madame Yang felt a dark shadow suddenly strike her neck and she fainted. Chapter 1379. At the far end of the corridor, under the moonlight, a petite and perfect figure walked out of the bedroom. Yun Jian was the one who had knocked out Madame Yang and Mu Rou. As for the banging sounds and the slightly rough groans, Yun Jian and Mu Ying had grabbed the men dressed as beggars and stuffed large pieces of tissue into their mouths. Then, afraid that Madame Yang and Mu Rou would not believe them, she would kick the men every few seconds. This was the reason for the banging sounds. Madame Yang had thought it was strange, but she did not care. In the end they were tied up by Yun Jian. Aunt and cousin, why did they do this to us? Mu Shuang was a little shocked, but she did not show any signs of being unable to accept it. On the contrary, Mu Shuang's ability to accept it was beyond imagination. They're so bored that they're waiting for me to return the favor. Yun Jian dragged Madame Yang and Mu Rou into the bedroom. In the bedroom, 5 or 6 men dressed as beggars loosened the tissue in their mouths and begged Yun Jian for mercy. Oh my God. I was wrong. It's all their fault. They paid us 5,000 yuan to do this. It's them, it's all their fault. Let us go. We'll do anything you ask us to do. Please don't call the police. The 5 or 6 men who were dressed like beggars did not say anything. Madame Yang and Mu Ro had paid them 5,000 yuan to do this. Not only would they get money, but they would also get to sleep with delicate and clean female students. This was a very good deal. Oh, the 3 of us are only worth 5,000 yuan? Yun Jian hooked her chin with her thumb and index finger. She looked at the 5 or 6 men dressed as beggars lazily and then smiled playfully. This smile was slightly strange and it gave people a creepy feeling just by looking at it. These 5 or 6 men dressed as beggars were shocked by Yun Jian and Mu Ying's frightening skills. Especially Yun Jian. When the 5 or 6 men dressed like beggars entered the house, they couldn't even cry for help. They were tied up by Yun Jian and Mu Ying and their mouths were covered. Anything. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes when she heard the words of the 5 or 6 men dressed as beggars. Right. Sister. Can we call you Big Sister? Sis, please let us go. We are really innocent. These 5 or 6 men dressed like beggars were afraid that they would make Yun Jian unhappy, so they shouted one after another. It's not that I can't let you go. I'll give each of you 10 cents. Drag these 2 women into the woods. Just do whatever they wanted you to do to us. Yun Jian, who had been sitting lazily on the bed, stood up and looked at the men with narrowed eyes. At the same time, Yun Jian took out 6 10-cents from nowhere. Then she clasped her hands and threw the 6 10-cents in front of the 6 men. Yang Shi's and Mu Ro's prices were only worth 60 cents. The 6 men were scared silly. They didn't know why, but Yun Jian's aura and her gesture of taking out 60 cents from nowhere scared them out of their wits. Mu Ying, untie them, Yun Jian said with pursed lips. Hearing this, Mu Ying stepped forward and untied the ropes on the 6 men. Let me give you a piece of advice. You'd better do your jobs obediently. Otherwise, don't appear in Min City in the future. Otherwise, Yun Jian didn't finish her sentence. The 6 men were staring at Yun Jian in unison. They were obviously scared stiff. However, Yun Jian curled her lips slightly and said, Don't look at me like that. I know that you are from Min City and can't leave Min City. Do your jobs well and pretend that nothing happened today. Yun Jian's words made the 6 men's eyes widen again. Chapter 1380. If one were to ask Yun Jian how she knew that these 6 men were residents of Min City and that it was impossible for them to leave the city, the answer was neither simple nor difficult. It was a secret. Oh my God. We'll definitely do as you say. We'll listen to you. We'll listen to you. One of the men was so frightened by Yun Jian's words that he thought that Yun Jian was psychic. He was so scared that he almost peed in his pants. Throw these 2 lumps out. Yun Jian pointed at Madame Yang and Mu Ro on the ground. Because the 6 men were afraid of Yun Jian, they quickly dragged Madame Yang and Mu Ro away and really brought them to the forest. Mu Shuang, who had recovered from her shock, pursed her lips and said, Does this count as first aunt cheating on first uncle? Maybe? Yun Jian tilted her head slightly at Mu Shuang and said these 2 words softly. 10 minutes later, Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and Mu Shuang were lying on the bed in the bedroom again. At this moment, there was a sudden commotion downstairs, followed by a series of sirens. Mu Ying and Mu Shuang, who had just fallen asleep, sat up straight when they heard the sirens. Mu Ying sat up straight on the bed and explained to Yun Jian as she got off the bed, This is the siren of our Mu family. It will only sound when something big has happened. Gather at the front hall. Sister Mu Ying, did something really happen? Mu Shuang asked fearfully. At the same time, she got off the bed and put on her shoes without slowing down. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. Mu Shuang was used to wearing long pajamas, so she had to wear a pair of pants under her dress. Yun Jian and Mu Ying had developed the habit of wearing normal clothes when they slept. This way they could just get out of bed and leave if something happened. Mu Shuang was also nimble. After Mu Shuang put on her pants, the 3 of them went downstairs without even changing out of her pajamas. Downstairs, in front of the whole family ran out in their pajamas when they heard the sirens. Dad, Mom. What's the matter? Mu Shuang shouted at a middle-aged man and woman who were not far away from him. Take the children and leave quickly. It's a killer who's after me. Grandpa Mu stood in front of everyone and Grandma Mu was beside him. Old Master Mu calmly spoke to his second son, Mu Ying's father, Mu Hong. Dad, what about you? Mu Hong's face darkened when he heard that it was an assassin. Then he asked anxiously. The children are more important. Evacuate with the children first. Grandpa Mu clenched his fists and shouted at Mu Hong, Quick! Go now. Mu Hong turned around and asked the children to leave with him. My wife and Ruru are missing? Where did they go? Where did they go? Grandpa Mu's eldest son Mu Feng's voice could be heard from upstairs. Go first. You guys go first. Grandpa Mu urged Mu Hong again when he saw that the situation was not good. Bam! Just then the door was kicked open and a group of killers swarmed in. The leading killer only had one eye. At this moment the leading killer was staring straight at old Master Mu. He laughed cruelly and said, "Today is the day that the Mu family will be exterminated. Don't even think about escaping." Grandpa. Mu Rue wanted to go forward, but he was stopped by Grandpa Mu. Lone Wolf. You're Lone Wolf, number 9 on the killer ranking. Grandpa Mu suddenly thought of a code name when he saw that the leading killer only had one eye. His face changed drastically. If he was alone today he could still deal with them. But today he had a whole family behind him. And a group of children. Moreover, Grandpa Mu was not as strong as he was when he was young. All of you must die. Lone Wolf shouted. Just when he was about to wave his hand to order the killers behind him to kill everyone at the scene. Chapter 1381. This sharp and straightforward female voice sounded like the heavenly voice of the Grim Reaper in everyone's ears. Especially old Master Mu, he was ready to fight to the death with this group of senior killers. He just wanted to buy time for the children to leave. The Mu family could not be destroyed. The children could not be implicated. This was what old Master Mu was thinking now. For him, as long as he could watch the children grow up healthily, it would be the hope of his life. He could die but the children couldn't. They still had a bright future ahead of them. However, old Master Mu did not expect that this female voice would be heard in an instant and reach everyone's ears without any warning. More importantly, the sharp and straightforward female voice belonged to Yun Jian. This mysterious and amazing girl. Ying, tell your friend to stop talking. Dad will take you away. Everyone in the Mu family was shocked, especially Mu Hong. He hurriedly said to Mu Ying, trying to get Mu Ying to stop Yun Jian from talking nonsense. Mu Hong didn't mean anything else. He just felt that if Yun Jian said something else she would attract the attention of this group of senior killers in front of them. Yun Jian was a friend that their daughter, Mu Ying, had brought home as a guest in the first place. Yun Jian was the most innocent. If something really happened to Yun Jian in their house, even Mu Hong would feel bad about it. Not to mention old Master Mu. Old Master Mu was a frank soldier, although he had been retired for many years. If anything happened to Yun Jian who was a guest in his house, old Master Mu was the kind of person who would sacrifice his own grandson. They had to save Yun Jian's righteousness first. Seeing that Lone Wolf and the other senior killers were stunned after hearing Yun Jian's words, old Master Mu hurriedly urged his second son, Mu Hong, and Mu Hong's wife Tian Fangfang, to take the children away first. Hong, go quickly. Grandpa Mu takes out a foldable military knife from his pocket and stands in front of everyone. He is the first to confront Lone Wolf and the other senior killers. Kids, come with us. Tian Fangfang ran over and grabbed Yun Jian and Mu Ying's hands. She was about to leave through the back door of the villa. Mu Ying had a biological brother who was not at home at the moment. Tian Fangfang ran over and grabbed Yun Jian and Mu Ying's hands, intending to evacuate as soon as possible. However, when she tugged at her daughter Mu Ying and Yun Jian's hands, she realized that the two of them did not turn around with her at all. Yun Jian let go of Tian Fangfang's hand that was holding her gently and took 2 steps toward Lone Wolf before going around old Mu to stand in front of the crowd, her sharp gaze meeting Lone Wolf's. When Lone Wolf heard Yun Jian's words just now, he was completely stunned. At this moment, seeing Yun Jian walking towards him, Lone Wolf narrowed his eyes and asked, "Who are you?" Seeing that Yun Jian was not willing to leave and was about to walk up to them, Mu Rue was so angry that he almost vomited blood. "Yun Jian, are you crazy? They are killers. What do you want to do?" Mu Rue clenched his teeth and glared at Yun Jian. He looked like he was exasperated with her failure to live up to his expectations, as if he wanted to tear her into pieces. Mu Rue had already found her an eyesore when she was behaving mysteriously earlier. But what about Yun Jian? This time she did not listen to his advice and walked up to Lone Wolf directly. Lone Wolf. He was ranked 9th on the list of killers. They could not defeat him. Therefore they could only choose a way to escape. But what about Yun Jian? She actually stood out to make trouble. "Ruith her, take her away. This is my own business." Seeing that Yun Jian was standing in front of Lone Wolf, Grandpa Mu panicked and shouted at Mu Rue. When Mu Rue heard this he wanted to say, "Who the hell would save her?" However, when he heard that Yun Jian had already drawn a beautiful red arc and was facing Lone Wolf, she simply said something that made everyone present dumbfounded again. Lone Wolf was shocked on the spot. Chapter 1382. Not only Lone Wolf but the assassins behind him were dumbfounded by Yun Jian's baffling reply as well. Old Master Mu, who stood behind Yun Jian, was shocked as well. He was not the only one who was taken aback. Everyone in the Mu family who stood behind Old Master Mu sucked in a breath as well. What did Yun Jian mean by what she said now? What do you mean? Even Mu Rue, who had been so aggressive just now, asked Yun Jian with a trembling voice. Mu Rue didn't even know why he was trembling. Mu Rue felt that Yun Jian was even more mysterious. From the moment he saw Yun Jian, he felt that this little girl was covered with a veil, making her unfathomable. However, Mu Rue didn't like others to be more mysterious than him, so he denied Yun Jian from the beginning. Lone Wolf had an ominous feeling. He felt that he had offended someone he shouldn't have. Sure, it's better not to say some things. Otherwise you might lose your life. Yun Jian curled her lips and said with a faint smile. Old Master Mu and the rest of the Mu family behind him didn't know that Lone Wolf was a member of the kosher mercenaries. They only knew that Lone Wolf was the 9th assassin on the international assassin list. At the same time, the only thing Old Master Mu knew was that Lone Wolf must have an organization. And Yun Jian's words. Was she talking about Lone Wolf's organization? And Yun Jian's words meant. Old Master Mu's eyes suddenly widened. He looked at Yun Jian, who was standing in front of him and the rest of the Mu family, and looking at Lone Wolf's group of assassins in disbelief. Was she the one who had control of Lone Wolf's organization? No. That was impossible. How old was she? If it was her, she wouldn't have been able to go to the military academy. Grandpa Mu shook his head again and dismissed his unrealistic imagination. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Lone Wolf pondered deeply. He had already guessed what Yun Jian's words meant. Could it be that she was? However, Yun Jian interrupted Lone Wolf's you. Her following words made Lone Wolf completely abandon his desire to stand out. She is. Seeing that Lone Wolf's expression did not change, but a trace of fear flashed across his eyes, Yun Jian only smiled slightly. Lone Wolf was indeed a member of the kosher mercenaries. With a slight smile, Yun Jian looked at Lone Wolf and suddenly changed her tone. She asked him in fluent Hindi, "How is the organization doing recently?" When Lone Wolf heard that Yun Jian was deliberately talking to him in a foreign language, his eyes flickered. He was stunned for a moment before he came back to his senses. He glanced at Yun Jian and then spoke in the same fluent Hindi. "The organization is doing well." "Aha." Yun Jian nodded and then said in Hindi, "When you go back, ask Mad Dragon to wait for us in the Amazon forest." When Yun Jian said this, Lone Wolf was stunned again. He then nodded blankly. "Aha." Mad Dragon was the god of war, ranked 3rd on the international secret agent ranking. He had just been poached by Yun Jian from the Inhun organization to the kosher mercenaries. His status was extraordinary as soon as he joined. Seeing that Yun Jian knew so much about the kosher mercenaries, Lone Wolf was sure that Yun Jian was the god in his heart. "Alright, it's fine. You can leave now. Don't appear here again." This sentence was said in Chinese. Yun Jian waved at Lone Wolf after she finished speaking. Lone Wolf obediently turned around and left with the group of high-level assassins. Seeing this scene, Grandpa Mu and everyone in the Mu family were stunned. What was going on? Didn't this group of assassins say that they were here to destroy the Mu family? Why were they sent away by Yun Jian with just a few words? Chapter 1383. Rather than saying that Lone Wolf had obediently left with a group of high-level hitmen, it was more like Lone Wolf and the group of high-level hitmen had disappeared as quickly as they could, as if they had encountered something terrifying. For a moment, the surroundings fell into silence again. It was eerily quiet. The people around were all dumbfounded. They all stared at Yun Jian and opened their mouths, but no words came out. Those few high-level hitmen in addition to their leader Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf was ranked 9th on the international hitman rankings. Just because of a few words that Yun Jian said, did they run away with their tails between their legs? In the end, it was Old Master Mu who broke the silence. Even Old Master Mu, who was used to seeing all kinds of strange things, was stuttering in disbelief. "They won't come back. You can sleep peacefully." Yun Jian yawned slightly, then turned around and waved at Mu Ying and Mu Shuang, intending to go upstairs to sleep. Old Master Mu and the rest of the Mu family, who were facing the threat of being wiped out, stared blankly at Yun Jian as she waved at Mu Ying and Mu Shuang to go upstairs. When Yun Jian, Mu Ying and Mu Shuang's figures disappeared from sight, Old Master Mu and the rest of the Mu family swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Grandpa, who the hell is she? And are those hitmen really not coming back? Should we leave? Otherwise, what if they come back? You can't take what she said seriously. Mu Rui still didn't believe Yun Jian's words. However, Mu Rui was interrupted by Old Master Mu before he could finish his sentence. Seeing is believing. The truth is right in front of us. You'd better calm down. You have to give in to her when you see her in the future. Don't blame me for not reminding you. If it wasn't because of something special about her, those hitmen would never have left. That's Lone Wolf, ranked 9th on the international hitmen list. Do you think this is a joke? It's not that grandfather is exaggerating. If it wasn't for her today, our Mu clan without Xuanxu would definitely not be able to escape the calamity of being exterminated. So, all of you better remember this clearly. From today onwards, she is our family's great benefactor. Grandpa Mu gritted his teeth and said each word solemnly. The she here was naturally referring to Yun Jian. Everyone in the Mu family responded, but in fact, everyone was amazed by Yun Jian's previous actions. The night passed uneventfully. However, as the eldest son of the Mu family, Old Master Mu's eldest son, Mu Feng, couldn't sleep the entire night. Because his wife and daughter had gone missing. Even the rest of the Mu family didn't have a good night's sleep. One by one they ran out to look for her. It was not until 4:45 a.m., when the sun had already risen from the east, that they found Madame Yang and Mu Ro in a small forest not far from the Mu residence. When they found them, Madame Yang and Mu Ro were still unconscious, but their clothes were nowhere to be found. Moreover, there were traces of being molested all over their bodies. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell what had happened with a single glance. The two of them only had a piece of clothing covering their bodies, but it couldn't cover their shame. At this moment, Yun Jian was sitting in Mu Ying's bedroom, fanning herself with a huge electric fan. Mu Shuang and Mu Ying were playing poker with Yun Jian. No. Who did it? Who did it? No. Sitting in Mu Ying's bedroom, she could hear Mu Feng's heart-wrenching screams coming from downstairs. His daughter and wife were both. If Mu Feng could still keep his composure at this time, it would be illogical. Yun Jian reached out and gently caressed her ears. Then she looked up at the huge clock hanging on Mu Ying's bed. The clock's minute hand was pointing at 6:30 a.m. She got up and told Mu Ying and Mu Shuang, "It's 6:30 a.m. I should go." Then Yun Jian turned to tell Mu Ying, "See you tomorrow in Longmen City." Both of them would depart for the Amazon forest tomorrow. Okay. Mu Ying nodded at Yun Jian. Chapter 1384. At 7 in the morning, Yun Jian prepared her luggage and left the Mu residence to return to Longmen City. Just as she was about to head downstairs, Yun Jian's phone rang. Yun Jian's eyes flickered as she took out her phone to check, only to see a caller ID glaring on the screen. My dearest hubby, mobile phones in 1999 did not have the functions of modern smartphones. Mobile phones back then were similar to old-age phones now, but the picture quality was much worse than old-age phones now, and they were usually black and white. Although it was called a black and white screen, the black color did not look like normal black. Yun Jian's gaze shifted slightly when she saw the caller ID. Mobile phones back then were not as good as they were now, but they could already be used as a caller ID. It was CE who added the caller ID and did not allow her to change it. He had actually secretly told her something before he left. He said that if she changed the caller ID, he would kiss her the next time he saw her. He even said that he would cough. Just as Yun Jian thought about it, Mu Shuang hopped down from the bed and went to Yun Jian. As she hopped down, Mu Shuang asked with a chuckle, "Jie, who called you?" As she spoke, Mu Shuang went to Yun Jian and peeked at the phone in Yun Jian's hand. 6 words were written on it. My dearest hubby, Jie, are you in a relationship? Mu Shuang straightened in shock. Girls in the past did not date so openly like now. Dating was no longer a rare thing now. However, it was rare for people in the past to be in a relationship. Of course, at that time, girls also dated, but at that time, teenagers didn't date as openly as they did now. I'm married. Yun Jian's words were shocking. Bang. Just as Yun Jian finished, Mu Ying flipped off the bed. Mu Ying stood up without even a grunt of pain. She stared at Yun Jian blankly, not caring that she had accidentally flipped off the bed and landed on the floor, causing a bump to swell up. You're married? Really? Mu Ying looked at Yun Jian with a rare look of surprise. She had thought that Yun Jian would be a loner like her, living in the same environment as when she was young. She might even live alone for the rest of her life. Muing did not expect Yunjian to be married. Country R's marriage certificate. I'm married, Yunjian answered the call after that, leaving Muing and Mu Shuang in shock. Siyi's rich male voice rang from the other end of the phone. Xiao Jian. Siyi's voice was indescribably seductive. It was the kind of feeling that just by listening to his voice, one would feel that he was indescribably handsome. Hearing this, Mu Shuang's eyes lit up. Of course, it wasn't out of envy or jealousy but out of pure curiosity. Yunjian replied softly. Her soft voice made Siyi have the urge to drop whatever he was doing and run over to press her down on the bed. You're going to the Amazon? Siyi asked dully. Yunjian answered again. It was not surprising that Siyi knew that she was going to the Amazon forest. Lone Wolf would definitely listen to Yunjian and pass the message to Mad Dragon when he got back. Mad Dragon was originally a member of Siyi's and Hun group. Even if he left in Hun group, he would definitely tell the truth to Siyi after finding out about the relationship between Siyi and Yunjian. Why didn't you ask me to go to the Amazon forest? Why did you ask Mad Dragon to come along? Under Mu Ying and Mu Shuang's curious gaze, Siyi's words came from the other end of the phone and were heard clearly by everyone present. The domineering voice with a hint of sweetness almost made Mu Shuang clap. Chapter 1385. Mu Shuang loved the feeling of pairing someone as perfect as Yunjian with a man who was equally perfect. She did not say a word but her hands were already clasped together like she was a witness who was about to witness the birth of a perfect couple. For some reason, Yunjian detected a hint of hostility in Siyi's words when she heard Siyi's words. It was the kind of strong and possessive smell of gunpowder. It was similar to the gunpowder left behind from a rocket launcher she used to play with. You don't have to come since you're so busy, Yunjian said in the next second after pressing her lips together. Just as Yunjian said that, Siyi's muffled voice came from the other end. Xiao Jin, you're being naughty again when I'm not around these few days? I'll teach you a lesson when I get back. The word, take care of, didn't sound like a normal way of taking care of someone. It sounded more like the tone of a couple flirting. There was also a sense of longing that made one's imagination run wild. Mu Shuang grabbed a pillow and buried her head in it when she heard that. She did not hear what Siyi said to Yunjian. She was still young, she did not want to get a needle's eye. Yunjian's cheeks were obviously flushed. After the silence she continued, I'm going back to Longmen City now. Talk to you later. Okay, Siyi replied with a muffled reply. Yunjian's cheeks were slightly flushed. This made Muing a little surprised. It was obvious that Siyi was not satisfied on the other end. When Yunjian was about to hang up, she suddenly told Siyi, I'll wait for you to come back. After that, she hung up the phone and stood up. Wow, sister and sister's husband have such a good relationship. Mu Shuang, who had buried her head in the pillow, raised her head and clapped, blinking her eyes mischievously. Yunjian didn't have the strength to defend herself at all. Yunjian blushed and then said to Mu Ying and Mu Shuang, I'm leaving first. Then she picked up her school bag and walked out of the door. Hehe, sister is blushing. After Yunjian left, Mu Shuang smiled at Mu Ying. Yunjian did not hear what she said. The bus ride from Min City to Longmen City took about an hour or two. It had been a month since she returned to Longmen City. When Yunjian arrived it was just past 9 in the evening. Qin Yiru was still at work. Qin Yiru had quit her job for a while and had been a housewife at home for a long time. However, she suddenly felt that there was no social zone to be a housewife at home. If one did not go out, one would not know the outside world at all. In addition, she stayed at home and her children had gone to school. Although she would go out to train, she did not know many people and had nowhere to go. Although Mrs. Yang and Qin Yiru got along quite well previously, it was unrealistic for her to be with Mrs. Yang all the time. Considering her social circle, Qin Yiru went to look for another job. This time, Qin Yiru found a job as a florist. A monthly salary of 800 yuan was considered pretty good for a florist in 1999. It was not like being a floor sweeper in Yunjian's new cruise. Most importantly, it was quite relaxing to be a florist, so Qin Yiru was working in the florist now. The florist's employees were mostly middle-aged women in their 30s or 40s. It was the biggest florist in Longmen City and occupied a large area. Qin Yiru was chatting with a woman of her age who was arranging flowers. This woman, who was the same age as her, came from a decent family. Like her, she was also looking for a social circle. However, the difference was that the woman was dressed rather fashionably while Qin Yiru was dressed in street clothes. The woman did not know about Qin Yiru's family background. The woman was Lu Shan, a local. She had a son who was in his second year of high school. When parents stood together, it was inevitable that they would talk about their children. It was the same for Lu Shan. Yiru, I heard that your child just finished his middle school exams. Which high school did your child get into in Longmen City? Lu Shan looked at Qin Yiru and asked with confidence. Parents in Longmen City like to speak with results. Whoever's child got into a good high school would have a bright future ahead of them. Those who did not have good results or could not get into a good high school would be seen as mediocre for the rest of their lives, the scum of society. My daughter got into Min City's military school, Qin Yiru said with a smile. What? A girl got into a military school? Yiru, you're just fooling around with your daughter? Shouldn't a girl get into a good high school and find a stable job after graduation and marry into a good family? What's your daughter thinking? Why aren't you persuading her? When Lu Shan heard this, she was surprised for a moment, and then a series of words came out. I'm the one who wants to get into a military school. My mom has never objected to me choosing the path I like. A pretty female voice came from outside the door. Yun Jian was seen walking in with her backpack. She spoke faintly, her pretty face drawing gasps of admiration from the shop's employees. It was only when she came to Lu Shan that Yun Jian smiled faintly and said softly, one has to pursue one's dreams. If one blindly chooses to do things one doesn't want to do, there will be more beggars begging on the streets. Lu Shan was the kind of person who judged a child's success based on their results. Under her education, her son was finally admitted to the worst school in the normal high school, but she was very proud of it. She was proud because there were many children from other families who could only get into vocational high schools. However, Lu Shan's face froze when she heard what Yun Jian said. Chapter 1386. Mom, what time do you get off work? While Lu Shan's expression stiffened, Yun Jian had already come to Qin Yiru and asked her softly. It's 10:30. There's still an hour and a half to go. Shall Jian go home first? I'll make lunch for you later. Qin Yiru said as she went to Yun Jian with a bouquet of untrimmed flowers. She put the flowers down and circled around Yun Jian before Qin Yiru commented with a frown. You didn't get tanner from the military training this month, but you've gotten thinner. I'll buy more meat for you to nourish your body today. Qin Yiru said worriedly. Her daughter was already skinny, but after a month of military training, she had gotten even thinner. Qin Yiru's heart ached for her daughter. Mom, I didn't lose weight. I weighed myself when I came back and I gained a catty, Yun Jian said as she rubbed Qin Yiru's slightly rough hand. In fact, Yun Jian had really gained weight. Height and weight were measured at the beginning and end of military training. Qin Yiru thought that Yun Jian had gotten thinner, but this was only Qin Yiru's opinion as a mother. She thought that it was impossible for Yun Jian not to lose weight after going to the military school for a month. You're still too skinny. You have to nourish your body. Qin Yiru said as she held Yun Jian's hand and patted the back of Yun Jian's hand. Yun Jian and Qin Yiru were talking and neglected Lu Shan. This made Lu Shan even more displeased. How can there be a month of military training? Isn't it usually 7 days? Lu Shan asked Qin Yiru and glared at Yun Jian as she spoke. My daughter is studying in the military school. The military school's military training lasts a month, Qin Yiru explained to Lu Shan with a smile as she patted Yun Jian's hand. The manager of the florist came in from the front door. The manager of the flower shop was quite young. She was only in her 30s. It was said that the manager, the woman named Wen Min, had opened the shop when she was in her 20s. It had been more than a decade since she opened it, growing from a small florist shop to the biggest one in Longmen City. Wen Min was no doubt a capable person. Wen Min came in from outside and went to Qin Yiru to tell Qin Yiru and Lu Shan. Don't be in a hurry to leave after work. I'll treat all the employees to lunch at the restaurant nearby. If you have family members at home who need you to go home to cook lunch, you can call your family members over for lunch. Wen Min was a very gracious manager. Considering that many of the employees in the store needed to rush home to cook lunch for their children or husbands, she simply asked the employees in the store to call their families over for lunch. Wen Min was surprised to see Yun Jian before she turned to ask Qin Yiru, "Is this your daughter? She's really pretty. Remember to bring her over for lunch later." Wen Min said and left after exchanging a few pleasantries with Qin Yiru. Qin Yiru did not refuse. Since the manager had said so, Qin Yiru could only tell Yun Jian, "Xiao Jian, go sit on the bench over there for a while. Come have lunch with me later." There was no one at home since the children were in school, so Qin Yiru told Yun Jian, Yun Jian went to sit on the bench after listening to Qin Yiru and took out the weapons books Mu Ying gave her to read from her bag. Although she already knew all these weapons like the back of her hand, she had used all of them before. Whether it was planes, tanks, or cannons. The introduction in the books was more comprehensive and the author of each book had a different introduction to the weapons. Just as she was engrossed in the books, a sarcastic voice rang beside her. Yo, you're still reading? What are you reading? What? World's famous guns? You're a girl, can you understand this kind of book? It was Lu Shan. Lu Shan had thought that she did not have a sense of presence in front of Yun Jian just now, so she had come over to teach her a lesson, so she spoke in a sarcastic tone. She had thought that Yun Jian was reading books related to studying and that Yun Jian's grades were poor, so she wanted to come over and ask if Yun Jian's grades were worthy of the word reading. She did not expect Yun Jian to be reading books related to weapons. Just as Lu Shan spoke, something that shocked her even more rang out. Yun Jian answered faintly, I can understand it. It's just that it's different from actually using it. The author of this book doesn't know enough about guns. As soon as he said this, Lu Shan immediately exclaimed, From what you're saying, could it be that you've actually operated these guns? Chapter 1387. Yun Jian's words left Lu Shan's mouth agape, slightly stunned. When she regained her senses, Lu Shan continued, How could a teenage girl like you have touched a real gun? What's with the latest gun? Don't tell me you've touched one in your dreams. You're saying that these guns are outdated. At this point, Lu Shan could not help but add, the person who wrote this book has studied it thoroughly. The person who wrote the book had done his research. How could he not know about handguns? How could a little girl like you be spouting nonsense? I see that your mother is usually serious and proper. Why is a little girl like you full of nonsense? Lu Shan walked over to lecture Yun Jian. And now she had indeed achieved her goal. Catching the chance, Lu Shan lectured Yun Jian fervently. With that, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Yun Jian ignored Lu Shan. She walked over and zipped up her bag, holding the book in one hand and the bag in the other. Then she walked to the bench on the other side and sat down. She put down her bag, flipped open the book and continued reading. She moved to another spot, but she did not bother with the talkative middle-aged woman. Some of the female staff around them saw this and covered their mouths in amusement. This young lady is interesting. A female staff chuckled and turned to look at where Qin Yiru was a distance away. She then called out to the woman who had gone far away, Miss Qin, I'm sorry Miss Qin. Yiru, your daughter is interesting. Qin Yiru did not fully understand her shout and did not react for a while. Lu Shan stomped her feet angrily and walked toward Yun Jian. However, just as Lu Shan took 2 steps toward Yun Jian, there was a sound from the florist's entrance. A man's voice called out to Lu Shan. Mom, I'm not feeling well today so I took the day off. My younger sister insisted on looking for you so I brought her here. Lu Shan had a son and a daughter. Her son was in his 2nd year of high school and her daughter was only 4.5 years old. Her mother-in-law was taking care of her at home. Hearing her son's voice, Lu Shan hurriedly turned around and saw her son, Ning Xing, standing there impatiently. Mom. Her daughter, little Yuan, ran over and ran into Lu Shan's arms. It was still a school day. Ning Xing had taken the day off not because he was not feeling well, but because he had agreed to go shopping with his girlfriend. He had brought his younger sister, little Yuan, here to cover up his actions. However, Ning Xing did not expect to see such a scene. A young girl around the age of 16 lowered her head slightly, her long and narrow eyelashes fluttering up and down. She sat quietly on the rest bench, quiet, but so beautiful that no one could ignore her existence. Ning Xing's restless mood immediately turned for the better. Mom, what's the work? I'll do it for you. Ning Xing hurried to Lu Shan, wanting to show off in front of Yun Jian, so he spoke to Lu Shan proactively. I'll get off work soon so I'm almost done with my work. Lu Shan said and placed little Yuan on the floor. She glared at Yun Jian before patting little Yuan's hand and telling her, You're right. Go play with that big sister over there. Be good. She's very nice. She'll play with you. Lu Shan knew that her daughter, little Yuan, liked to wreak havoc, so she revealed a sinister smile. Sure enough, little Yuan quickly ran over and said to Yun Jian, Big sister, I'll play with you. As she spoke, little Yuan grabbed Yun Jian and placed her bag beside her without asking for her permission. Her bag was unzipped as she had changed books just now. When little Yuan grabbed the bag, all the things inside fell out. Lu Shan thought that her scheme had succeeded. She looked up and saw the things that fell out of Yunjian's bag with her son. In addition to a few weapon books, there were more than 20 butterfly knives as well as various blades and daggers. She thought that since Yunjian was a girl she would definitely have some girly things in her bag. She did not expect that Yunjian's bag would be filled with knives. Chapter 1388. Lu Shan was stunned because she thought that Yunjian's bag must be filled with books related to learning. Therefore she had asked her daughter little Yuan to knock over Yunjian's bag. She thought that Yunjian's bag was either filled with books related to learning or those weapons books that she used to put on an act. However, Lu Shan had never expected that Yunjian's bag would be filled with all sorts of butterfly knives, razor blades, and daggers. Moreover, there was a whole bunch of them. What was she trying to do? Kill someone? She was just a girl. Although she had been admitted to the military academy, she was just a girl. Why would her bag be filled with all sorts of small knives instead of books related to learning? Lu Shan was stunned at the moment. Lu Shan's son Ning Sheng was stunned as well. When Ning Sheng first saw Yunjian, he thought that Yunjian was just a gentle and quiet girl. He thought that Yunjian was the kind of girl who would follow the path of life and listen to her parents, study hard and get into high school. When Yunjian was reading the books earlier, he thought that Yunjian was looking at the learning material. He even had the illusion that he was in love with Yunjian. However, he had never expected that Yunjian's bag would be filled with knives. Not just one. They were all knives. Just when Ning Sheng was extremely shocked, Lu Shan's astonished voice had already come. She shouted in a panic, "Oh my God! You're a girl. It's normal for you to have books on weapons in your bag. Why aren't there any textbooks in your bag? There's only a black pen. Everything else is knives. Why are you so weird, little girl?" Lu Shan's screams quickly attracted the attention of the other employees in the florist. Qin Yuru was also attracted by Lu Shan's screams. She saw that her daughter Yunjian's bag had been overturned and that it was filled with all sorts of knives. "Oh my God. Everyone come and take a look. Yuru, your daughter's bag is filled with knives." Those who didn't know better would think that he was going to kill someone. Look. Lu Shan's shouts continued unabated. After the commotion, even the manager of the flower shop, Wen Min, came back. Yunjian lowered her eyes. Lu Shan was still hooting. "Pick it up." Just as Lu Shan's long-winded words continued, Yunjian's faint voice suddenly sounded. Hearing this, everyone present was stunned. Lu Shan was also stunned. She didn't expect that Yunjian would actually shout at her daughter little Yuan to pick up the knife that had fallen over. Lu Shan's little daughter little Yuan, who loved to cause trouble, pretended not to hear Yunjian's words. She even pulled Yunjian's bag and shook out the last thing in Yunjian's bag. Fun. Lu Shan's daughter little Yuan even laughed out loud. Then she patted Yunjian's bag and tossed it to the ground. "Pick it up." Yunjian raised her voice. She frowned and suddenly raised her voice. Her shout frightened Lu Shan's daughter little Yuan, so much so that she trembled and burst into tears. This bag was the one that Qin Yuru had bought for her. When Qin Yuru saw this, she was about to go up and help Lu Shan's daughter little Yuan pick up her bag when she was stopped by Yunjian. "I was just about to test the power of these knives. Are you guys trying to challenge my limits?" Yunjian said casually, but the words that came out of her mouth made one's hair stand on end. I'll pick it up." Lu Shan was shocked. She was afraid that Yunjian would really do something to her daughter, so she quickly squatted down to pick up the knives one by one and put them back into the bag. Lu Shan was picking up the knives, but her attention was still on Yunjian. Qin Yuru went to Yunjian worriedly. Qin Yuru asked Yunjian worriedly, "Xiaojian, 2 or 3 knives are enough. Why did you bring so many?" Hearing Qin Yuru's question, the employees around them, including the florist manager, Wen Min, were stunned. What did she mean by 2 or 3 knives are enough? Was this how she, as a mother, should educate her child? In spite of it, what came next shocked them even more. Yunjian's red lips curled up as she told Qin Yuru with a smile, "My friend collected these 21 butterfly knives and gave them to me." What kind of friend had such a hobby? Collecting butterfly knives as gifts. Chapter 1389. Your friend, male or female, actually gave you a knife? Wen Min looked at Yunjian in shock. She did not mean any harm, she was just a little shocked. Yunjian glanced at Wen Min. She heard from Qin Yuru that Wen Min was a very kind person. Although she was the owner and manager of the flower shop, she was never harsh on her employees. She would even treat her employees for a meal and she would pay for all the expenses. Considering that the employees in the shop were all women in their 30s and 40s who had to rush home to cook for their children or husbands, Min even asked the employees to invite their families over for a meal. There were not many managers like this in this day and age. It could be said that they were extremely rare. She's a girl. She's my best friend. Yunjian's red eyes widened slightly as she replied to Min. Yunjian's expression was very serious when she spoke. It did not seem like she was joking. At this time, Lu Shan quickly picked up all the knives that her daughter had scattered on the ground. Lu Shan stood up straight. She had been watching Yunjian's every move. Now that she heard Yunjian's words, Lu Shan did not wait for Min to speak and spoke first. What friends of life and death. What kind of ups and downs can you guys go through at this age? I'm afraid you guys haven't even stepped out of society yet. How can you be my best friend? Young people, you should be more realistic when you speak. Lu Shan had ordered her daughter to flip through Yunjian's bag. She thought that she had the upper hand in front of Yunjian. However, she did not expect Yunjian to threaten her with such a tone. Lu Shan loved her daughter very much, so she quickly rushed over to help Yunjian pick up the knife. She was afraid that Yunjian would do something to her daughter. Lu Shan's tone was sarcastic, but the people around them could hear the displeasure she felt toward Yunjian in her words. Yunjian ignored her. Therefore the atmosphere quickly became gloomy. It's time to get off work. Go pack up and go to the restaurant. Everyone can go for lunch. Min finally felt that the atmosphere was not good, so she suggested. Hearing Min's words, everyone agreed. Lu Shan also felt that it was boring, so she took her son and daughter to the restaurant first. Mom, let's go, Yunjian said to Qin Yiru as she stood up and zipped up her bag. I'll go wash my hands first. Qin Yiru nodded and went to the back door of the florist. The Kulai Xian restaurant was just an ordinary restaurant with a large round table. There were many employees in the flower shop, so Min arranged 2 tables for them. After everyone sat down, Yunjian found that Lu Shan and her son and daughter were also sitting at the same table as her and Qin Yiru. Manager Min was also sitting at the same table as him. Yunjian lowered her eyes and didn't say anything. At the dining table, a large group of people immediately started chatting. After a while, the topic turned to the children's studies. Lu Shan was still holding a grudge. At this moment, she could not wait to present Yunjian's poor studies in front of everyone. Of course, it was Lu Shan's own opinion that Yunjian was poor in her studies. After all, why would a girl who was good in her studies go to a military school? Of course, her results were good when she got into a military school, but Lu Shan remembered Qin Yiru saying that Yunjian was the default candidate for the military school. If that was the case, Yunjian's results must be poor. My son's school is number 3 high school. He didn't do well in the middle school entrance exam, but he still got into a regular high school, Lu Shan boasted proudly before turning to ask Qin Yiru. Yiru, your daughter got into a military school. Her results should be okay, right? How's her middle school entrance exam results? Lu Shan asked. However, she thought to herself, how good can her results be if she was sent there by default? Adults at this age like to talk about their children's results. If they were good in their studies, it meant that they had a bright future ahead of them. They did not know that they were extremely stupid. My results are average. Yunjian did not let Qin Yiru continue the conversation and answered calmly. Lu Shan's smile widened when she heard that. However, before Lu Shan's smile could widen, Yunjian's words were heard in the next second, startling every parent present. Chapter 1390. It was just an accident. When Lu Shan first heard Yunjian say this, she thought that Yunjian would say an unbearably low result, so she was already pressing her lips together, ready to laugh out loud after Yunjian announced her results. However, Yunjian said, I was just an accident and got first place in the city? First place in the city? First place in Longmen City? This result was just an accident? Lu Shan was stunned. She maintained her posture of moving her chopsticks to pick up a piece of pork trotter. She was stunned on the spot. Oh my God. First place in the city? Yiru, your daughter got first place in the city? Before Lu Shan could recover from her shock, a woman who was also a florist stood up and exclaimed at Qin Yiru. Yiru, you said that your daughter got first place in the city? Why didn't you mention it? There's more. Your daughter is so good in her studies, why did you let her go to the military school? Why didn't you let her apply for DE High School? Our DE High School's cutoff is so high, but your daughter can do it. Can your daughter get in? She's the first in the city. Someone stood up and told Qin Yiru immediately. DE High School was a key public high school in Longmen City. The cutoff was very high and it was also the best high school in Longmen City. This was just the objective aspect. In general, the students who graduated from DE High School were the most promising students in the eyes of their parents. Yunyi was a student of DE High School. Therefore, when the people present heard that Yun Jian's cutoff was so high, their first thought was, why didn't she apply for DE High School with such good results? No one noticed that Lu Shan's face was paling bit by bit. She looked so ashamed that she was speechless. My Jian wants to go to the military school. She's quite talented, so I support her to choose what she wants to do. Qin Yiru chuckled with a hand over her mouth in response to the crowd. Qin Yiru was very low-key and humble. She was very kind to others and was not vain. Although she had such an excellent daughter, she never bragged about it. To be able to do this, it had to be said that people like Qin Yiru were very rare. The surrounding women sighed. Everyone felt that it was a pity that Yun Jian didn't go to the first high school with her grades. Lu Shan, who was a little ashamed just now, suddenly raised her head. That was right. Even if Yun Jian had gotten first place before, she was still the former top student of Longmen City. She was stupid to have chosen the military school. That was all in the past. Lu Shan instantly raised her head to look at Yun Jian. Then she said to Yun Jian with a bit of confidence, "You're a girl and you're going to the bottom of the military academy. You're not willing to go to a key high school to further your studies. Isn't that stupid?" Lu Shan's words made Yun Jian raise her eyebrows. At the bottom? Yun Jian raised her eyebrows and almost couldn't help but chuckle. When did she say that she was at the bottom of the military academy? Isn't that so? You're a girl and you want to compete with boys in terms of strength? Do you think you can beat him? Lu Shan said in succession, and there was a strong sense of confidence in her voice. Was there a need for a girl to compete with a boy in terms of strength? Of course it was the boys who were stronger. Just as Lu Shan finished speaking, Yun Jian took out a certificate from her pocket and placed it in front of Qin Yiru. She ignored Lu Shan directly and spoke to Qin Yiru instead. "Mom, I'm first place in the freshmen's military training this time. There are 3 freshmen who entered the elite class directly. I'm one of them while the other 2 are my friends. The school gave this certificate to me as a reward for being the first place. I can take leave and leave school anytime during classes in the future. There's no need for any reason." As she spoke, before Lu Shan and the rest could digest it, Yun Jian spoke again while they were still stunned. Chapter 1391. What Yun Jian said stunned everyone present. First of all, Yun Jian had won first place in the military training? No one present was surprised that the military school would rank students for their military training. What they did not expect, however, was that Yun Jian had won first place in the military training. Moreover, the women present were mostly parents. To them, their children's studies were the most important. In Longmen City, being able to get into DE High School was akin to being the top scorer in ancient times to many parents. Yet, Yun Jian said that her brother had represented DE High School in the language competition and won first place in the province? For the time being, let's not talk about winning the provincial first prize, which was enough to shock people to the core. Based on the first part of the sentence, was Yun Jian's brother not Qin Yiru's son? Qin Yiru had a son and her son had gotten into DE High School. Her daughter was so outstanding that she had won first place among the freshmen when she had just entered the school. Oh, Yiru, your son and daughter are so outstanding. Even the store manager, Wen Min, stood up in shock as she looked at Qin Yiru and exclaimed in bewilderment. Qin Yiru did not expect Yun Jian to blurt everything out. She was taken aback as well, only coming back to her senses after a while. My Xiao Jian and Xiao Yi are only this good. As a mother, I'm quite happy, Qin Yiru said with a smile. Exactly. If I had a daughter and son as good as you, I'd be over the moon. Speaking of this, I'm pissed off when I think of my disappointing son. Wen Min chimed in as well, but she was smiling at Yun Jian and Qin Yiru the entire time. There was a tinge of helplessness in her tone, but it was more genuine than anything else. Qin Yiru soon struck up a friendly conversation with the other employees in the store. Knowing that Qin Yiru's son and daughter were so outstanding, many of them took the initiative to befriend Qin Yiru. People were all like that. It wasn't surprising that they would follow whoever was outstanding. However, Yun Jian had achieved her goal. She wanted Qin Yiru to have a better life in the flower shop and make more friends. Of course, Qin Yiru's original intention of working in the flower shop was to make more friends. Lu Shan recovered from her shock. Although she was unwilling, she couldn't say anything at this moment. She could only stare blankly. In the end, Lu Shan was so angry that she nearly vomited blood. It was because his son had failed to live up to his expectations and kept staring at Yun Jian as if he was completely infatuated with her. So you're studying at Min City's military academy? I'm studying in 3rd high school. You're welcome to hang out with me. Ning Sheng stared straight at Yun Jian as he invited her. Ning Sheng had snuck out of school to go on a date with his girlfriend. However, ever since he saw Yun Jian, his heart had been hooked by Yun Jian. He even chased her all the way here and shamelessly sat down at her table. Yun Jian ignored him. At this moment, a woman at the same table pointed at the door and exclaimed, "Wow, what a handsome young man." Just as the woman finished, Yun Jian turned to look and met a pair of sharp dark eyes that were as sharp as an eagle's. The man made his way over after meeting Yun Jian's gaze. Every movement he made as he made his way over was so cool that it was enough to make all the women in the room squeal in delight. "Whose family is this young man from? He's so handsome," another woman exclaimed. Chapter 1392. He was the only one who could accompany her, no matter where it was. Ce stared fixedly at Yun Jian as if he wanted to bore a hole through Yun Jian. Yun Jian was a little embarrassed by Ce's words. Besides, there were so many people around. She lowered her head out of shyness when Ce grabbed her hand. Qin Yiru, who was sitting beside Yun Jian, covered her mouth and laughed silently. Qin Yiru was about to speak when Ning Sheng, who was sitting opposite Yun Jian and had been staring at Yun Jian, looked at Ce in disbelief. Then he asked Yun Jian, "Who is he?" It was as if they were denouncing Yun Jian for her crimes. Yun Jian heard Ning Sheng's words and reached out to grab Ce's large hand. Then she replied softly, She considered that Ce was too busy, so she didn't ask Ce to accompany her to the Amazon forest. She also asked Mad Dragon to go with her because Mad Dragon was also an assassin from Minhun. There were 3 assassins who had survived with Yun Jian from Minhun. Besides Yun Jian, Mad Dragon was one of them. Mad Dragon was also there when she was sent to the organization, so Mad Dragon knew Mu Ying. Yun Jian knew that Mad Dragon and Mu Ying had some feelings for each other when they were young. Although they were not even 10 years old at that time, Mad Dragon and Mu Ying liked each other. When Mu Ying died in place of Yun Jian, Mad Dragon was tricked out by a group of children in the organization. That was why Mad Dragon only found out about Mu Ying's death. At that time, Kuang Long was on the brink of insanity. The only thing Yun Jian knew after that was that Kuang Long killed all the people who tricked him out. Yun Jian asked Mad Dragon to wait for them in the Amazon forest because she wanted Mu Ying and Mad Dragon to meet. She didn't know that Ce would be so jealous that he sent Mad Dragon away. What Amazon forest? Speaking of which, Yiru, why is your daughter being intimate with an outsider in front of you? You have to keep a close eye on such an outstanding daughter. Don't let some riffraff kidnap her. Lu Shan had spoken with the intention of competing with Yun Jian, but now that she saw how outstanding Yun Jian was and that her son, Ning Sheng, was interested in Yun Jian, Lu Shan wanted her son to marry such an outstanding daughter. She might be jealous, but she would be part of her family once they married her. Lu Shan was shameless. She had treated Yun Jian this way in the beginning, but when she saw that Yun Jian was good-looking, capable, and had a brother who studied in DE High School, Lu Shan thought to herself. That was how Lu Shan thought of it. She should take a look at how her son looked like. Lu Shan thought that Qin Yiru would reign in Yun Jian and the man's entanglement, but Qin Yiru ignored her and stood up to speak to Ce. Hey, you're back? Come, sit beside Xiao Jian. I'll find another seat. As she spoke, Qin Yiru moved away from the seat beside Yun Jian and found another seat to sit down. It was only after she was seated that Qin Yiru replied, "Huh? Entangling with an outsider? Since when did my Xiao Jian entangle with an outsider?" As she spoke, Qin Yiru really did not know what Lu Shan was referring to as she looked around. Qin Yiru was not pretending. She really did not know. Lu Shan's face darkened when she heard what Lu Shan said. Aren't they entangling with an outsider? Lu Shan pointed at Ce and Yun Jian exasperatedly. It was then that Qin Yiru realized that Lu Shan was referring to Ce. Chapter 1393. In Qin Yiru's heart, she had long treated Ce as family. To Qin Yiru, Ce was family. Therefore, Qin Yiru did not react when Lu Shan said that Yun Jian was messing around with an outsider. When she heard Qin Yiru say that Ce was her chosen son-in-law and that Ce was family, Lu Shan nearly vomited blood in anger. Lu Shan thought that Qin Yiru would realize that her daughter was messing around with a man after what she said just now. Who knew that she would say, Are you serious? Your daughter is still so young and she already has a chosen son-in-law? When Min asked in disbelief, taking a few more glances at Ce. Ce was handsome. His fair complexion coupled with his murderous eyes made it impossible for anyone to ignore his presence. That was all it took to describe his handsomeness. When Min asked out of pure curiosity. Since she had asked this, when Min couldn't help but ask another question. Of course, her tone was still mixed with the weight of a joke. Don't tell me that you've arranged a marriage for your daughter? When Min's words sparked a conversation between everyone and Qin Yiru. Qin Yiru chuckled with a hand over her mouth and replied to Wen Min, Of course not. I advocate for children to love freely. Look, my Xiao Jian and Ai are interested in each other. I can't stop them from being together, can I? Ai's a rare good kid. Qin Yiru was not an extremely old-fashioned person. To her, it was fine as long as Yun Jian was happy. Lu Shan was about to vomit blood when she heard what Qin Yiru said at the end. Lu Shan had never expected Qin Yiru to be so optimistic about her daughter's relationship. She was still thinking of having her son abduct such an outstanding daughter from Qin Yiru's family. Ce had already taken the seat that Qin Yiru vacated for him. When he turned to look, he could already tell what Lu Shan, the old hag, was up to. Since he came in, he could feel Ning Xing's gaze sizing up his Xiao Jian as if his life depended on it. Ce did not let go of Yun Jian's hand even after he took his seat. His other hand reached into his trouser pocket to take out a large booklet and placed it on the round table before spinning the turntable to move it to Qin Yiru. This is my marriage certificate with Xiao Jian. It's registered in country. We're real. He and Xiao Jian were real now, they were real, so he did not mind letting more people know about it. Ce said as he turned the booklet to Qin Yiru. No one expected Ce to do this, so everyone stopped what they were doing when they heard Ce's mellow voice. This is. Lu Shan was stunned. She thought that Ce and Yun Jian were just a couple and did not expect Ce to take out his marriage certificate. Aren't you still underage? This. Lu Shan did not even realize that there was a marriage certificate in country R. She only knew that Yun Jian and Ce were married. It's a marriage certificate in country R. Xiao Jian and I are husband and wife now, so we're protected by the law. Ce cut Lu Shan off, speaking to Qin Yiru. Everyone thought that Qin Yiru would scold Yun Jian and Ce. After all, it was one thing to admit that Yun Jian and Ce were together, but it was another thing to register their marriage as it was protected by the law. Who would have thought that Qin Yiru would clap her hands excitedly? She opened her mouth openly and shamelessly under everyone's gaze, saying, Great! We've even registered our marriage. You're amazing. It'll be legal and reasonable for Xiao Jian to give birth to a grandson or granddaughter soon. Chapter 1394. Qin Yiru accidentally blurted out her true thoughts. Once Qin Yiru said it, Yun Jian's cheeks flushed instantly. Lu Shan's face darkened at the same time. Ning Xing froze on the spot, looking at Yun Jian and Ce in disbelief. She was married? She was married. Did that mean he had no chance? Ning Xing did not even think about what kind of person he was and whether he was worthy of Yun Jian. Most importantly, Ning Xing had a girlfriend of his own. His girlfriend must have left in a fit of anger at him for standing her up. While everyone was stunned, Ce raised a brow with a slight smirk and uttered words that made everyone's imagination run wild in the next second. I'll work hard. It was a continuation of what Qin Yiru said earlier. Once he heard Ce's half-understood words, Ning Xing's face darkened as if he had just eaten dog poop. Lu Shan's face darkened as well. Jian, we're here. Just as Yun Jian's head was about to hit the floor in embarrassment, 3 people walked into the restaurant. The person who led the way to greet Yun Jian was Qin Sini. Qin Sini shook her head at Yun Jian and ran over to grab Yun Jian's other free hand, telling her, Yun Jian, I'm not going anywhere. Jian, you're back? When you said you were here just now, I dragged Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen over to look for you. They even said they wanted ice cream before coming over. I directly threw away the ice cream in their hands. Don't you think I'm amazing? Qin Sini knew that Yun Jian was coming back today, so she asked Yun Jian where she was on the phone just now. When she found out that Yun Jian was at the restaurant, Qin Sini happened to be nearby, so she dragged Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen over. After graduating from junior high school, everyone was admitted to different high schools. Qin Sini and her friends were still studying in Longmen City, but Yun Jian had gone to Min City. Qin Sini and her friends had just finished their military training, so they were on break now that it was school time. Yun Jian snapped out of her shyness and looked up to meet Qin Sini's gaze that said, praise me, praise me. You're tanned? Yun Jian commented quietly as she glanced at Qin Sini and her friends. Oh, it's Sini. Are you guys playing around here too? It's been a while since I saw you. Come visit me when you're free. Qin Yuru greeted Qin Sini when she saw her. In spite of it, Qin Sini and her friends were rooted to the spot by Yun Jian's casual remark. Aya Jian, don't be so direct. Qin Sini covered her face in disbelief. The group of people around them were attracted by Yun Jian and Qin Sini's interaction. Lu Shan and Ning Sheng looked over as well. Oh right, Jian, I heard that there are 3 people from your military school who entered the elite class directly. You're one of them. Hey, what's the benefit of entering the elite class? Qin Sini and her friends paid close attention to anything that happened in the military school because Yun Jian had gone to the military school. The news of Yun Jian successfully passing the military training's wilderness survival event and entering the elite class had spread like wildfire. It was not surprising that Qin Sini and her friends knew about it. Yun Jian raised a brow and turned to see Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen looking at her with anticipation. She smiled and said, entering the elite class means there's a chance to join the hunting school as Country Z's special forces. Yun Jian then narrowed her eyes and added, I have to go to the hunting school. Hunting school? What the hell is that place? Lu Shan asked with a sullen face after hearing that. It was the kind of careless words. Just as Lu Shan finished her question, the people around them turned to look at Yun Jian in confusion. Hunting school? Hunting? A school to catch wild animals? Why was there such a school? What kind of school was this? Why did Yun Jian have to go? To learn how to catch wild animals? Everyone present was slightly stunned. Master, is the hunting school you're talking about located in South America? Is it the world-famous Special Forces training base? It said that the elimination rate is as high as 80% and the death rate is extremely high. It's known as the true Special Forces Devil Training. Master, are you talking about that school? Zhang Xiaofeng was stunned for a moment before asking Yun Jian. Just as Zhang Xiaofeng finished his question, everyone present was stunned. Most of the people present were dutiful residents. They often talked about their children's academic results, who had a higher salary, or who married into a good family. They thought that the hunting school Yun Jian mentioned was just an ordinary school. However, no one would have thought that the hunting school Yun Jian mentioned was actually the Special Forces training base, and the death rate was extremely high. Just as they were shocked, they heard Yun Jian admit, yeah. This meant that the hunting school Yun Jian had to go to was the Special Forces training base with an extremely high death rate? Everyone present was dumbfounded. Lu Shan and Ning Sheng originally thought that Yun Jian applied for the military school to become a policewoman. However, no one would have thought that Yun Jian actually wanted to go to such a dangerous place to train. Chapter 1395. Special Forces Training Base? The elimination rate is as high as 80%? The death rate is extremely high? You'll die? Are you kidding me? You're going to a place like that? You're a girl. Lu Shan could not help exclaiming again when she heard what Zhang Xiaofeng and Yun Jian said. You're going to a place like that? What if you die? What if you die? Ning Sheng couldn't help but cry out in alarm. When he mentioned death, Ning Sheng's body trembled. He was obviously frightened. Xiao Jian, you're going to a place like that? Will you really die? It's such a dangerous place. Mom won't let you go. The people around them exclaimed, but they calmed down quickly. Qin Yuru was different. Yun Jian was her daughter. Therefore, when Qin Yuru heard Yun Jian say that she was going to such a dangerous place, she stood up from the bench right away. Die. I'd really like to meet the person who can kill me in this world. Yun Jian chuckled softly. Her words were quite arrogant, and there was a sense of arrogance in them. In spite of it, others thought that Yun Jian was extremely foolish. Pfft. Lu Shan laughed out loud. She could not hold it in as she laughed out loud when she heard Yun Jian's arrogant words. After that, Lu Shan's lips twitched before she forced herself to hold back her laughter. Forgetting herself, she told Yun Jian again. Do you think you're a god? Do you really think you're in heaven? Haha, you'd really like to meet the person who can kill you in this world. You're kidding me? Qin Yuru was already worried about her daughter. Now that she heard what Lu Shan said, she was even more worried. Xiao Jian, you can't go. How can there be a guarantee? Qin Yuru was genuinely worried and scared. The proudest thing in her life was having a daughter and a son. Both of them were equally important. Therefore, to Qin Yuru, nothing was more important than the safety of her daughter and son. "Mom, I've never done anything stupid that would cost my life and I've never boasted about myself," Yun Jian said to Qin Yiru solemnly. "The existence that can threaten me has not been born yet. With me here, Xiao Jin will be fine no matter where she goes." Siyi's words rang out just as Yun Jian was explaining to Qin Yiru. Qin Yiru was stunned. Just as she was about to refute Siyi, she heard Siyi continue. "It's just a hunting school. I guarantee that if Xiao Jin really loses a strand of hair in the school, I'll blow it up. Moreover, if anything happens to Xiao Jin, I'll be there to shield her. Even if someone dies, I'll be the first to die." Siyi told Qin Yiru with a serious look at Yun Jian. What he said was from the bottom of his heart and everyone present could hear it. Siyi's words touched Qin Yiru. She was right to find this son-in-law. Lu Shan, on the other hand, was displeased. After she heard what Siyi said, she retorted at Siyi, "Blow it up? Do you think you're an armed force? Playing with gunpowder?" Before Lu Shan could finish, Siyi had already dialed Shui Ying's number and spoke to the latter right in front of everyone. "I'm sorry. Find the shortest and fattest lady who works in the same shop as my mother-in-law in Country Z. Send a fighter jet to bomb her." Everyone was dumbfounded when Siyi finished. What? Chapter 1396. Lu Shan thought that Siyi was just joking. She did not expect that Siyi was telling the truth. And Siyi said it so openly. She was the shortest and fattest woman in the shop? Women love to be beautiful, regardless of their age. Lu Shan was the same. Therefore, when she heard Siyi say that she was the shortest and fattest woman in the shop, Lu Shan was stunned. When Lu Shan came back to her senses, the first thing that came to her mind was not that Siyi wanted to bomb her house, but Siyi actually said that she was the shortest and fattest woman in the shop. Lu Shan was stunned. She was so shocked that she couldn't even speak. The rest of them were the first to react to what Siyi said. "Young man, don't tell me you're serious?" Wen Min was shocked because Siyi did not seem to be lying when he spoke. Child, don't mess around." Qin Yiru had heard about Siyi's family background from Dong Ruan and knew that Siyi came from an extraordinary family. Therefore, Qin Yiru knew that Siyi was telling the truth. When Lu Shan recovered from her anger, she still did not believe Siyi. She even lectured Qin Yiru. "Oh Yiru, is this the kind of son-in-law you want? Bombing with fighter jets? Aha, do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I don't know anything?" As Lu Shan spoke, Siyi's phone rang again. In spite of it, Siyi pressed the answer button. Snow Eagle's voice came from the other end. "Young master, the fighter jets haven't arrived yet. I've locked onto the target floor with missiles. Should we bomb it across the sea?" An Hun group's influence was comparable to a country. This wasn't nonsense. As soon as he said that, everyone present was dumbfounded. The other party actually called Siyi a young master? It felt like it was real. No, this is real. Lu Shan was completely stunned. She stared blankly at Siyi, feeling as though she was in a complete daze. Don't!" Qin Yiru cried out in alarm. In the past, they could still use their own power to cover up small conflicts. However, if Siyi really ordered the Snow Eagle to launch a missile attack on Lu Shan's family, this was no laughing matter. It involved the country. Lu Shan was really frightened. She looked at Siyi in a daze. She was really afraid that Siyi was telling the truth. The next second, Lu Shan opened her mouth and begged for mercy. Don't. I was wrong. My mouth is cheap." Regardless of whether it was true or not, Lu Shan couldn't bear the blow of this possibility. "There's no need to launch the missiles. Let's retreat," Yun Jian said to Shuiying, who was on the other end of Siyi's phone. "Yes." Shuiying agreed to Yun Jian faster than he agreed to Siyi. As soon as he finished, he hung up on Siyi. How dare Shuiying hang up on Siyi when the young mistress had spoken? In the past, Shuiying would not have dared to do this even if he was given 100 guts. Lu Shan did not know why, but when she heard the word retreat, she felt like she had escaped death even though she did not believe that Siyi would launch a missile attack on her house. Lu Shan sat in her seat and heaved a sigh of relief. Siyi had never objected to Yun Jian's decisions, so the matter passed just like that. When Chen Sini and the others arrived, Yun Jian told Qin Yiru that she wanted to go shopping with Chen Sini and the others after a few bites. Siyi followed Yun Jian and even held Yun Jian's small hand with his large palm. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.